Oh, all right. Well,
No.
then I'll go and read it. So hold on. All right.
Yeah.
So this is Beena and
Please read it
I
for me.
doing a capital R reading. This is Beena and I doing a capital R reading of The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I wonder if his
Okay.
parents meant the rhyme there a little bit. All right. So the foreword. See, yeah, you do have it, Beena. I sent you the same file, I thought. Anyway, so the foreword says, this is him writing this, right? For Paulo. When The Alchemist was first published 25 years ago in my native Brazil, no one noticed. A bookseller in the northeast corner of the country told me that only one person purchased a copy the first week of its release. It took another 6 months for the bookseller to unload a second copy, and that was to the same person who bought the first. Wow. And who knows how long it took to sell the third. By the end of that year, it was clear to everyone that The Alchemist wasn't working. My original publisher decided to cut me loose and canceled our contract. They wiped their hands of the project and let me take the book with me. I was 41 and desperate. Hold on. Uh, there we go. I was 41 and desperate, but I never lost faith in the book or ever wavered in my vision. Why? Because it was me in there, all of me, heart and soul. I was living my own metaphor. A man sets out on a journey, dreaming of a beautiful or magical place, in pursuit of some unknown treasure. At the end of his journey, the man realizes the treasure was with him the entire time. I was following my personal legend, and my treasure was my capacity to write. And I wanted to share this treasure with the world. As I wrote in The Alchemist, when you want something, the whole universe conspires to help you. I started knocking on the doors of other publishers. One opened, and the publisher on the other side believed in me and my book and agreed to give The Alchemist a second chance. Slowly, through word of mouth, it finally started to sell. 3,000, then 6,000, 10,000, book by book, gradually throughout the year. 8 months later, an American visiting Brazil picked up a copy of The Alchemist in a local bookstore. He wanted to translate the book and help me find a publisher in the United States. HarperCollins agreed to bring it to an American audience, publishing it with great fanfare. Ads in the New York Times and influential news magazines, radio and television influence, interviews. But it still took some time to sell, slowly finding its audience in the United States by word of mouth, just as it did in Brazil. And then one day, Bill Clinton was photographed leaving the White House with a copy. Then Madonna raved about the book to Vanity Fair, and people from different walks of life, from Rush Limbaugh and Will Smith to college students and soccer moms, were suddenly talking about it. The Alchemist became a spontaneous and organic phenomenon. The book hit the New York Times bestseller list, an important milestone for any author, and stayed there for more than 300 weeks. Wow. Weeks? Wow. That's like 6 years. It has since been translated into more than 80 different languages, the most translated book by any living author. Wow. And is widely considered one of the 10 best books of the 20th century. Holy moly. That's a weak list if you ask me, then. Sorry. Anyway, people continue to ask me if I knew The Alchemist would be such a huge success. The answer is no. I had no idea. How could I? When I sat down to write The Alchemist, all I knew is that I wanted to write about my soul. I wanted to write about my quest to find my treasure. I wanted to follow the omens because I knew even then that the omens are the language of God. Though the alchemist, remember that sentence, Beena? Yeah, this is going to come up in one of my critiques of his book. But anyway,
Mm.
why I don't think it's one of the 10 best. It's my big complaint about the book. But anyway, Though The Alchemist is now celebrating its 25th anniversary, it is no relic of the past. The book is still very much alive. Like my heart and like my soul, it continues to live every day because my heart and soul are in it, and my heart and soul is your heart and soul. I am Santiago, the shepherd boy in search of my treasure, just as you are Santiago, the shepherd boy in search of your own. The story of one person is the story of everyone, and one man's quest is the quest of all of humanity, which is why I believe The Alchemist continues all these years later to resonate with people from different cultures all around the world, touching them emotionally and spiritually, equally without prejudice. I reread The Alchemist regularly, and every time I do, I experience the same sensations I felt when I wrote it. And here is what I feel. I feel happiness because it is all of me and all of you simultaneously. I feel happiness too because I know I can never be alone. Wherever I go, people understand. They understand my soul. This continues to give me hope. When I read about clashes around the world, political clashes, economic clashes, cultural clashes, I am reminded that it is within our power to build a bridge to be crossed. Even if my neighbor doesn't understand my religion or understand my politics, he can understand my story. If he can understand my story, then he's never too far from me. It is always within my power to build a bridge. There's always a chance for reconciliation, a chance that one day he and I will sit around a table together and put an end to our history of clashes. And on this day, he will tell me his story and I will tell him mine. Paulo Coelho, 2014. Yeah, the copy I sent you may not be this anniversary copy, Beena. So
Yes, it is not.
yeah. So yeah, that's why you don't have it. Uh,
Yes.
Prologue. I don't know if you do. You have the prologue?
No,
Oh,
I've just the story started directly.
wow. Okay. Prologue. The alchemist took up a book that someone in the caravan had brought. Leafing through the pages, he found a story about Narcissus. The alchemist knew the legend of Narcissus, a youth who knelt daily beside a lake to contemplate his own beauty. He was so fascinated by himself that one morning he fell into the lake and drowned. At the spot where he fell, a flower was born, which was called the Narcissus. But this is not how the author of the book ended the story. He said that when Narcissus died, the goddess of the forest appeared and found the lake, which had been fresh water transformed into a lake of salty tears. Why do you weep? The goddess asked. I weep for Narcissus, the lake replied. Ah, it is no surprise that you weep for Narcissus, they said. For though we always pursued him in the forest, you alone could contemplate his beauty close at hand. But was Narcissus beautiful? The lake asked. Who better to know? Who better than you to know that? The goddess said in wonder. After all, it was by your banks that he knelt each day to contemplate himself. The lake was silent for some time. Finally, it said, I weep for Narcissus, but I never noticed that Narcissus was beautiful. I weep because each time he knelt beside my banks, I could see in the depths of his eyes my own beauty reflected. What a lovely story. The alchemist thought. It's a terrible story. The lake is also a narcissist. But anyway,
Yes. Yes.
yeah, it's astonishing. Let's pause there because now the story starts. Right? Uh,
Ah,
this is fascinating. That the alchemist thinks this is a
it's
lovely story.
fascinating.
Yeah. Uh,
Yes.
it's it shows that the alchemist is somewhat maybe a narcissist, but we'll see. Yeah, yeah.
And don't we all a bit of narcissists?
Yeah, but to be a narcissist, to be a narcissist is to not see the beauty of others because we are blinded by our own. And that's a terrible thing. So it's
Yes.
not a beautiful, it's a lovely story, maybe, in this that it makes us aware of that. So, all right, if he's looking in a meta context, yes. I wouldn't say it's a lovely story. You know, the word lovely is a little bit problematic. You know, I would say, oh, you know, this is a useful story or an enlightening story. Yeah, yeah, but not particularly lovely.
Interesting.
No, I mean, yeah.
But it's still again, different languages have different
Correct,
expressions,
correct, correct. So
and
I make allowance for the translation. However, you know, lovely is a word that's easily translatable, you know. So he could have
no,
said,
I'm
you
not
know,
saying
blue,
that he didn't use that. No, I'm not saying that he
uh,
didn't use that.
but nuance,
Uh,
nuance, maybe.
Lovely, but they are very different expressions.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Like
he may have said something like in English, you'd say, oh, what a nice story. Now, nice, you know, that could be kind of a sarcastic comment, or nice could mean, you know, not necessarily that it was enjoyable, but that it had value, you know. So yeah,
okay,
you know, nice is
like
a very
we have,
broad.
okay, we have a different, or you can say a bit unusual expression, especially when people appreciate poetry. They says "बहुत आला" means very excellent.
Mm,
Uh, but this expression is used in many ways. So
yeah.
it means very excellent, but it used in many different ways. It's all about the tone, and of course, in which context you are saying, and of course, other than poetry. So, but it is very very Urdu kind of thing expression. It's not influenced by any other language. So it's a different thing for different languages. When he's saying that lovely, for I don't know in his language what lovely actually means as an expression.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm not sure about this.
yeah,
Okay, so here we are on the project of rereading, or as you mentioned,
yeah, yeah. This is our project. Yes. What about it, Beena?
books you have read in your past, because of a very obvious reason that they are in thousands. So sorry, we cannot do this, and we don't want to do this, and we don't need to do this.
Nope, nope, nope.
So all sort of
So,
reasons for
so
that.
we are rereading. Well, The Alchemist wasn't one that I read back in the day, Beena. I only read it recently.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So just to give you a bit of
I mean, it's a reread, but
background.
it's not a reread from the way he passed. Yeah,
Yes, I was just saying that we are on the project of rereading the books we have read in our past, but
yeah, yeah.
it cannot be all your books because of so many obvious reasons. First, there are too many. Second, we
Yeah,
don't want to.
yeah.
Third, we don't need to.
Right,
And of
right.
course, fourth one, it is
Right.
impossible now.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but I have books which are very few, limited in numbers. So, but they're very significant for me. So
Exactly.
we are on this project.
So
Okay, one
our
thing
project
about,
is
yes,
to reread significant books that we have read.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
And also, it's not only to just simply reread or to read with fresh eyes and fresh perspectives. It is also to read via the lens of Way of Impeccability.
yes, and also, um, also with all the feelings also, because now I'm practicing this
Uh,
to feel the energy, to feel the intent and the energy of
yeah,
that author, which is communicating in through words, but not in a literary meaning, but in terms of like what was the intent behind that. So now
yeah,
we are reading towards that, and trying to understand the story, trying to experience this story with more awareness, of course, through way of impeccability lens, and also with open heart and open mind, without having any pre-judgmental, pre-existing ideas. And now, okay, Alchemist. I might have some all sort of things involved into that. But now we are going to actually give due respect to Alchemist, and
yeah.
practicing our rereading or capital R reading project. Okay.
Yes,
A bit of
yes.
background. of this Alchemist, how it came into my life, because
Oh,
this is how it becomes significant. So I was in a Sunday market, and there was a stall, and there were so many books, old books there, secondhand books, and I was looking for something. I used to read Dan Brown's novels, so I was looking for that maybe I will find a good print in good condition also.
hmm.
So when I was looking at, I
I
saw
remember you telling me this, but I don't remember any details. So this is fabulous, Beena.
it was
I'm pleased
it
you're
was
telling
it
me
was a
again.
very no. I'm telling you because it's a reread project. So I'm
Yes, yes,
sharing this
yes.
just for the
But it's
record.
providing the context as how the book came
Yes,
into your life, which is in
yes,
the context of what Paulo said. It is important how the book came into
exactly,
your life. It's very relevant.
exactly. This is why it is important.
Yeah.
So I was looking, and then I was searching for books, and then I saw a tiny little. Okay, it's a very thin book, not very and not in good condition, but it was just okay. And I saw that, and the word, oh, the only thing written on the title was Alchemist by Paulo.
Not The
I was
Alchemist,
not
just
aware.
Alchemist.
Yes, not any detail, nothing into that.
Oh no, but I mean
And
it said
I
The Alchemist or it said Alchemist
Alchemist,
without the the.
yes, Alchemist.
Wow. Because the book is
Yeah.
called The Alchemist, but in that copy it was just
If I
Alchemist.
remember it, if I remember it correctly,
That's
yes, it was
that's
just
that
Alchemist.
that's very interesting. See, that's like an anomaly. But you didn't know it was
Okay.
an anomaly at the time, but interesting. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
I was not, but it was because I was member of some reading groups, which I was not a reader, but still I joined those groups to be aware of. Uh, I read somewhere. So that word was, it was not a name. That word alchemist was a bit familiar for me,
Oh,
and I feel
interesting.
like this is interesting. I want this,
Yeah, yeah.
and I just bought that book without looking inside. What is the
Ah,
condition and how it is? Just I said, okay, I want this, and I bought that. When I came back home, I saw that the first. Okay, I was assuming before that it was 20 pages, but no, it was 25 pages.
ah.
25 pages were missing.
Do you still have the
First
book,
25.
Bina?
I have it somewhere, yes.
No, I was going to say it would be appropriate to go and find it and show it. Show me. I can see
Yes.
it.
Okay, I will try to find that book and then share a
You don't know.
picture.
You don't know
So
offhand right
first,
now where it is.
no, not right now. So first
How do
25 pages were
sorry,
missing.
just a pause here, real quick. How do you not know where your
Yes,
books are?
because I was changing my room setting big time,
Was somewhat of a
and
rhetorical question, a bit of a tease, but anyway, just
no, actually it is because I have very few books, so it is impossible to miss all these things. But
exactly.
no, because I have a lot of changes going on,
Yeah.
so that's why. That's why
Anyway,
I don't have access right now. Okay,
yeah.
coming back
So
to
I didn't.
that it was first 25 pages were missing, and I was disappointed. And I was like, kind of like, oh, how stupid I was. I didn't even look inside. Okay, it's a useless book, but it's still because from my the earliest memory I have is to respect written words. It's a big deal for me in my family. It's a big deal to respect written words, any written words. They respect it a lot. You cannot just throw anything like this. So I just put it in my bookshelf, and I was like, okay. And it fell into the backside of my shelf. And after 2 years, I guess, more or less, when I was reading and doing something, that book fell in front of me. And I remembered, oh, Alchemist, I was keen to read that. But what a pity if 25 pages are missing. How can I read that? And then I put it in front shelf. And I don't know, months after that or weeks after that, I don't remember exactly. Suddenly I got this idea, like why cannot read first 25 pages online? Because mostly if the book is not available free, still you can get access to first few chapters or parts. And I said, okay. And then I start reading Alchemist. The first page, and then second and third. And I just closed my laptop, and then I was sitting on my bed and I was like, wow, wow, what is this? Because I always used to say sarcastically, you can say that, oh, life never comes with a manual, which is the most needed one. But I don't know why nature do this to us. Like, we don't have a manual how to live this life. We never get that. But when I was reading Alchemist, first time I feel that there is a manual. And it was like Paulo was answering all my questions I had at that time. All my questions which I was not feeling confident enough to even ask because it seemed so silly for me. I was not able to even articulate my questions properly, but they were in my mind. I was wondering about that. I was trying to understand that how this happened to me, why it is, and why it is like this. So there were so many questions. And when I was reading for the Alchemist first time, it was like Paulo was exactly going through the same thing with what I was going through. And he somehow he found all the answers and he just put it in that story. And I feel that
Wow.
this story is
Wow.
customized
And this is
or
from the
written for
25
me.
pages? Sorry, I just need to make sure to check. Sorry to interrupt you. This is from the 25 pages book or from the full book?
No, from the whole book, from the whole
Oh,
book.
oh, oh, oh.
Yeah. And I was so thankful so many times just after reading few lines or sometimes just one line. I closed that book and I was like, oh my god, okay. So it
Wow.
was awareness on every single line for me at that time,
Wow.
because it is very basic, but it is so
Yeah.
essential that sometimes we just don't know. Like I always say that sometimes you have a big beautiful, or you can say that,
Yeah.
the luxurious meal in front of you. You have all the finest cutlery available. Nobody is asking you to not eat, and all, everything is available, everything is possible, but you don't know how to hold your spoon and put it in your mouth. The
Yeah.
very basic skill is missing.
Yeah.
Everything is there and you cannot eat just because of this thing. You feel hesitate, you feel reluctant. Just a very basic one, like just hold this spoon and this is how you are going to put it in your mouth. And
Yeah.
that was the missing link Paulo provide in that book. Very basic one, nothing huge for me, but
Yeah.
that very basic one was missing. I was not able to understand that, comprehend all these things by myself. And Paulo made a huge, huge difference in my life, because just providing that particular thing, the food was in front of me, full table served. I had all the access, everything, but I was not able to hold this spoon to put that food in my mouth. That was a very basic little thing, like duh. The duh was missing.
Yeah. Very cool,
And
Beena.
that was the
Very cool.
first step. And it was the first step towards way of impeccability for me, because after reading that, my search, because before I was pondering my head for word to understand words like consciousness. For months I was pondering my head like what it means actually, what they are
Mm.
talking about, what is consciousness. And nobody was there to answer all these things. I tried my best at that time. At that time my best was to try to search, to reread and reread and reread, but people, I was not, um, I was not precise in my search. I didn't have those skills. I was not organized in my thoughts, so it was all random. And when I read Paulo, it was like, wow, okay. But it was just very basic, duh. And after that, I start feeling relaxed in my life. Like, okay, yes, this is how life is, and things will come to me, and okay, this is how it is going to be. So I was not really bothered by all the questions I had. And I was not doing like, oh, so I suddenly found my life purpose and I'm going to do this. No, nothing.
Mhm.
Nothing like that happened. But it was just a
Ah,
satisfaction that, yes, okay, it's not unique to me. These are the questions people do ask, and this is how life happens. It is not
yeah.
something magic. It is not something forbidden. This is not something to feel ashamed of, to share and to think like that. So it is okay. And that's it. That was the whole resolution I got from this story. It's
Yeah.
okay. That's it. But that awareness, how it worked later, that was really amazing, because now I feel that Alchemist also has a big, huge part in for me in my progress and getting to way of impeccability. So it was a building block towards that. I was
Right.
somehow able to be in that vibration where I get access to all these things.
Yeah. It
So
was a
this is
start. It
this is
was
how
a
it
start.
works.
It was a
Yes,
start. Yeah.
there
Yeah.
was a start. Okay.
It was the first stepping stone. Right.
Yes, and nothing comes out of it. No, nothing huge. No
Yeah. Yeah.
transformation. No,
Yeah.
nothing huge. It was like, it was okay. Now I understand that these are the questions, and this is how life is. And okay, so I will do whatever I'm doing. This is how it was for me.
So would it be fair to say that
Yes,
it opened the door of conception of moreness?
absolutely, absolutely. Without
So
having
it
these
wasn't
words
necessarily
exactly.
moreness or detail in itself, but
Yes,
it was that first stepping stone, and then it created in your mind the idea that there could be further stepping stones, that you actually were on a stepping stone, not just somewhere, right? It's because a stepping stone implies there's more, it's seldom just one, right? So that,
yes, and it
it
resolved the
created that.
basic confusion. It resolved the basic confusion in my mind, that why I am thinking like this, why I do things like in this way. So when I read this Alchemist, I was like, okay, so I'm not alone. Okay, this is how some people are, and it's not weird. It's not a problem. And
Yeah.
of course, like the universe is always with you. So that positive mindset, that it's a very
Yeah.
strong cueing from Alchemist, that yes, universe will conspire to make it possible whatever you really want.
Very
And when you
interesting.
actually feel that, you start believing and trusting in yourself, that yes, things will happen. And this is exactly how things happened, because I got a very strong cueing from Alchemist, that yes, whatever I really want in my life, which I was not aware exactly at that time, but I just trust that yes, okay, whatever I really want in my life, universe is going to conspire to make it possible for me. And that's it. That was the whole mindset. This is what created by Alchemist at that time.
Oh,
And
wow.
then things change, and then things start shifting, and suddenly I was, when I was even not expecting anything, when I was not even thinking about anything, suddenly things just happened. Suddenly things just happened for me,
Wow.
and my whole life
So,
changed
so, so
after that.
what the alchemist did for you was open the possibility of materializing intent.
Yes, it changed my mindset. It changed my mindset. I
Ah,
was confused. I was continuously trying to find answers, like what it means, why this, why that. This was the confusion. I was actually tangled up in all those questions. What happened after that? That because the way that whole story is, you got so many answers. At least for people who are on very basic initial stage, and they don't know, they don't have anyone who can actually elucidate or explain all these things to them directly. This is a very good book. And
yeah,
once I was resolved with all those questions, I said, okay, so it's whatever I'm going to do, universe is going to just make it possible for me. That was the mindset. And this is
yeah.
exactly what happened. One fine day kind of a moment, I just woke up in the morning and I saw an ad from Way of Impeccability, and I said, jump it. I
Wow.
don't need there was no other omen that opening up Facebook and having this announcement from the impeccability. That was the omen itself. And then just pursue that.
Wow.
That's
This I
that
find
was the
inordinately fascinating. How a book which is very obviously a fantasy novel is
yes,
taken as as an instructional.
absolutely life manual,
But that's my point, and not just
life
by you,
manual.
but
People like
by
me.
obviously by most readers, right? But
Yes,
how do you make that jump from something which is written as a fantasy with, unrealistic magic in it? Like when the wise the king comes and appears to him and other things. You don't have this in
exactly,
your life, but yet it
absolutely,
somehow
absolutely.
I find this totally incredible.
Absolutely, absolutely. That because it's very fictional, it's so magical and it's so mythological type of thing. Like if someone is in
Right.
search
But
of
whatever
treasure.
made you think that it was realistic?
Okay, why this is exactly how we relate to what is the word? Star Trek. This is how we relate to other things where people are going to different planets. We are not going, but we do have that trust that yes, they are going and they are exploring, and it is possible, and it is possible. So if a person can go to Mars and come back, or go to Moon and come back and explore all these things, I can go to some other country and explore new things. This is how
Yeah, I
people and we
understand.
are
So
taking that.
this is doing it in the abstract, but to be
Yeah,
more literal like that. Boy, I've read, thousands, and there are zillions of fantasy books out there. They don't have the same effect, which is really fascinating. For the
absolutely
most
not,
part,
because
when people read fantasy novels, they don't think, "Oh, I can do the things that are in the fantasy novel." At
of
least not as
course.
far as I'm aware.
Okay, not exactly fantasy, but there are so many stories I have heard from my granny of different prophets, like about the miracles and about so many things, and some other saints also. I never feel resonate with. I never feel that, oh, if that guy can do this, I can also do this. No, I never feel that. But of course, alchemists have a magic in it. Very simple in so many ways, which you feel connected to. And this is what happened when I was reading that. I
I
have so many other examples which I never feel resonate with. Uh, Even one of my friend asked me that, okay, you read Quran. Have you Do you have any favorite woman story in Quran which you feel resonate with? And I said, oh, I don't feel that. And then I start reading and reading, and then I said, okay, yes, maybe this. But it was not, and I try to read that, but I never feel resonate with. So
uh,
because maybe it is because it is not connected to any specific ideology.
yeah.
That's why I feel resonate. We feel open to that. Like, okay, yes, any for anyone who is following any religion, Hindu, Muslim, or whatever, they can resonate with this thing. The first thing for me, and also the way this whole story is written. There is no overly philosophizing kind of attempt into. The words are simple,
Very
and
interesting to
uh,
me. But
the
sad that.
happy.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, so no complex ideas, and also uh, the way characters are so open.
Hmm.
They don't get into that confusion like what if, what but. When he sees something like, okay, yes, this is what it is, okay, and he follows that Santiago, and also that when he made blunders, even when he had some instructions, very obvious instructions, but he made a blunder. He was not like beating himself up, like, okay, yes, I lost everything. What else? It's the fearless acceptance and acknowledgement of whatever universe is putting in it. It's a big, huge of capital T trust. It's a big,
Hmm.
huge story. And also, when a character is so open, reader also feel that, okay, I need to trust that. And that awareness is contagious. And this is what we say. And that awareness coming from those characters and from Paulo, in return, you can say transfer into the readers, and they also get into like, yes, pure acceptance. Then it makes sense into their life.
Interesting. Now, Beena, when you read The Alchemist, the full version, was this before or after Way of Impeccability?
No, it was before.
Okay. I wasn't sure when you got a full copy.
No, it was before.
Yeah. So where did you get the full copy from? Because the first one.
No,
only
I didn't get a full copy. I just read few pages online.
So
and then
all of this is from the 25 pages. Wow.
No, it is not from 25 pages. I'm just saying that it is from the whole story I'm sharing now.
Yeah, but when did you read the whole story? That's what I'm asking.
Whole story. I read before Way of Impeccability.
I understand, but right. But where did you get the whole story, the full book from? Because the first one you bought only had 25 pages.
No, I read online first 25 pages online, and then I start reading from the book I had, the old book.
Oh. So I misunderstood. So the book has all of it in, but online was only 25 pages.
I just read online 25 pages. A whole book was available, but because I had something in my mind that, okay, I will not get this book free online. So I was just like, okay, yes. So at least first 25 pages, I search, and then I just read 25 pages online and switch to my book and start reading there.
Oh, I misunderstood this. I thought the book that you'd bought only had 25 pages in it, and the rest were thrown out.
No, the first 25 pages were missing.
Oh, the first 25 were missing. Oh, that's what it is. Okay. I got confused. All right. So you went back and read the 25.
Yeah. Though I could read online whole book, but still I just said, no, first 25 pages and then switch to the book I had.
I see. Okay. All right. So when you did, you read it back then when you got the book then. I got you.
Yes.
Gotcha. Very interesting, Beena. Very interesting that the first 25 pages were missing. Very interesting.
Yes.
That makes a difference. So did you read when you first got the book and you opened it and saw the first 25 pages are missing? Did you read some and then go online to find the 25, or
no? I was very disappointed. So I just put like, nah, it was a blunder. Beena, you didn't even check that this book have all pages or not. So I just put it in my back of my bookshelf at the time, and it fell actually into the back side of that shelf. So it was away from my side for 2 years.
Wow.
After 2 years, I
and then what happened after 2 years?
After 2 years, when I was cleaning my cupboard and everything, then I said, okay, there was a book behind all those books and notebooks. I just grabbed it and I said, oh, again, that disappointed adventure I had. And then suddenly I realized that, oh, I can read these missing pages online, and then I can go back. So it was assumption also, without searching.
Correct.
It was an assumption that I cannot read online. This was the thing. And this is how my thought process was at that time.
Yeah.
I was not pursuing that. I was not checking it. I was not being thorough.
Yeah, interesting.
So this is how it was for me.
Yeah.
It was a stupid thing. Like, Beena, if you can read 25 pages online, why cannot you read whole book there? I didn't even check because it was in my mind. I cannot get access.
Yeah, but also that you didn't need more than the 25 because you had the rest already.
And then I said, okay, so 25 done, and then I switched to my book and I start reading it.
So I want to see this book with the missing 25 pages. I want to see it.
Yes, okay, I will bring it up. It was
important. But you don't know where it is now right away that you can go get it now.
I will bring it up. So
yeah, because now's the time to see it. Not, but that's all right. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's get back to reading. or
Interesting.
start
I
reading
want,
now?
yeah, but before that, I just want to also comment. It makes me a bit sad that when I read the book for the first time, which okay, I didn't read it at the same time that I read, Siddhartha or Jonathan Livingston Seagull, which would have been appropriate. I don't think it was let's see, 25 years, 2014 later than the time I read Jonathan Livingston Seagull and Siddhartha. So anyway, but I'm just saying it would have been, a book at that time to read, but it wasn't available. But nonetheless, when I did read it, it never grabbed me in a way it obviously grabs most people who do read it. To me, it was okay, an interesting book. Had some moreness to it, but you know, not a book that I would have said, "Wow," raved about. If others hadn't raved about it, I only came
Yes.
to read it because of Erica and Kay and you. So, it's really interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it
So
makes me a bit sad that
yes,
I don't have the same magical connectivity where it's so influential. That's what fascinates
but
me. It's a good story, but I never saw it as profoundly influential.
oh, it is so influential. But for
Yeah.
people who are struggling with the duh question, and you never been struggling with the duh, for you it was always obvious. You were able to figure out very early in your age, like in your life, very early, yeah, even as a kid, you were able to find those
I made a
duh
lot of
things.
effort to. It's not that it came so easily. I made a lot of
Okay.
effort to
Yeah,
figure it
but
out.
okay, so you were able. I'm just saying that you were able
Yeah,
to
yeah,
actually figure out all the duh question in your life,
yeah.
but not everyone. So it is. I always. That's why I was saying that it is. It is so amazing to provide you those duh, very basic, very like. This is
Yeah.
how it is. Just like mother, just teach you that. Okay, fill that spoon, hold like this, put it in your mouth, and that's it. Done. Okay, and rest is story. You can just learn to use fork, and you can learn to use knife, and then you start maybe chopsticks, whatever. But the first thing is know how to hold the
Point
spoon
out
and put the food
these
in your mouth.
basic derneses for me
Sorry,
as
your
we
voice
go
is
through.
muted.
Oh,
Okay, say it again.
I say
Now.
when we go through the book, point out these very basic derneses for me.
Okay. You are trying to catch me like this. Okay. I will share whatever it was for me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I will get all that done now,
It makes a difference,
because
isn't
now
it?
I'm on a different now I'm on a different way. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Oh, let's start.
all right.
The
One second.
boy's name was Santiago. Dusk was falling as the boy arrived with his herd at an abandoned church. The roof had fallen in long ago, and an enormous, oh, what is sycamore? Okay, an enormous sycamore had grown on the spot where the
Yeah, just screen
sacristy.
share what you're reading so that we can read along with you.
Oh yes, please, it will help me big time.
No, you screen.
I'm sharing. I'm sharing. I'm sharing. Okay. This is the I don't have any prologue. I don't have any forward. So this is how this book is starting for me.
Correct, correct. Because you got the older version. Yeah, yeah. I had the
Yes.
25-year version. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm reading it again. The boy's name was Santiago. Dusk was falling as the boy arrived with his herd at an abandoned church. The roof had fallen in long ago, and an enormous grown on the spot where the sacristy once stood. He decided to spend the night
With a
there. He
sacristy.
saw sacristy,
Yeah, sacristy and sycamore. Yeah,
sycamore. What
sycamore.
is
Yeah.
this?
The tree.
Sacristy.
A tree and a sacristy is a part of a church, or
Yes,
like
I
a
guess
church,
that.
something sacred.
Okay, okay. So he decided to to it that all the sheep entered through the ruined gate, and then laid some planks across it to prevent the flock from wandering away during the night. There were no wolves in the region, but once an animal had strayed during the night, and the boy had to spend the entire next day searching for it.
Hmm.
He swept the floor with his jacket and lay down, using the book he had just finished reading as a pillow. He told himself that he would have to start reading thicker books. They lasted longer and made more comfortable pillows.
Yeah.
It was still dark when he awoke, and looking up, he could see the stars through the half destroyed roof. I wanted to sleep a little longer, he thought. He had the same dream that night as a week ago, and
He
once
had
again
had
he
it.
had awakened. He had had the same dream that night as a week ago, and once again he had awakened before it ended. He arose and, taking up his crook, began to awaken the sheep that still slept. He had noticed that as soon as he awoke, most of his animals also began to stir. It was as if some mysterious energy bound his life to that of the sheep, with whom he had spent the past 2 years, leading them through the countryside in search of food and water. They are so used to me that they know my schedule, he muttered, thinking about that for a moment he realized that it could be the other way around, that it was he who had become accustomed to their schedule.
Mm.
Right there right there if I remember correct, it was when I read this paragraph. I was like, yeah, so like things can be upside down, and can turn into right to left. But I'm thinking about things can be completely opposite. That was the
Yeah.
first moment. I had no vocabulary for that perspective shifting. I
Interesting.
had no details about that. So I was thinking like, whoa, okay. What I'm thinking as something very interesting, or I'm like, oh, so amusing, and so these things might be. Who knows?
Yeah.
It would be completely other way around. Like I'm looking towards the sky. It is like I have to look upward. Maybe it's me who is looking downward and assuming that. So it was all sort of weird ideas at the
Interesting.
time,
Interesting.
because he opened that possibility that
Wow.
yes, I'm feeling that
Wow.
okay, these
Wow.
sheeps are accustomed to me, but maybe I am accustomed to them.
Wow.
And that was the first uh, simple introduction to energy connection also.
Yeah, and also to in way of impeccability, or at least in Mona's project, when we take this all the way, we get to the philosophy of opposite. I mean, it's very basic here. It's the rudimentary part of it,
Yes,
right?
exactly, very basic.
But it's still it connects you. If you take it further, you get to
Yeah.
philosophy of opposite. Yeah. Now, obviously, philosophy
So
of opposite. It's not just opposite. It's opposite. This should be in inverted commas there a little bitty, but still, it's very sophistication there. Very
So for
sophisticated.
you, it would be, this paragraph would be like, yes, okay, it makes sense. But for people like me at the time, it was like, wow, yes. And then I just close my book and I start thinking about how many things can be completely opposite to what I assume. See, this is how it was happening. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So it may be other way around. Wow,
Yeah.
this is how it was. Okay,
Basics. Very interesting.
very
Very
basic,
cool
very
comment.
basic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But there were certain of them who took a bit longer to awaken. The boy prodded them one by one with his crook, calling each by name. He always believed that the sheep were able to understand what he said. So there were times when he read them parts of his books, and
Right.
that had made an impression on him. Or when he would tell them of the loneliness or the happiness of a shepherd in the fields. Sometimes he would comment to them on the things he had seen in the villages they passed. So they were like companions to him,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he was treating them as a companion.
Yeah.
So it was okay, not at that time. If I'm, yes, it was not at that time, but now I'm realizing that he was not only, Paulo not only mentioned energy connection, but he elaborate a bit like how it was, because the Santiago was communicating with them, treating them as a being, not as sheep or animals. So he was just treating. And when any with any being, when you communicate, you build a pathway of communication. So
Yeah.
and communication is always from both side. Now I understand all these things. Of course, it was not at the time, but he is telling you that those sheeps were aware what he was sharing with him, with
The
them.
sheep. It's a plural.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So sheep were aware that he is treating them as a being, and the
Yeah.
communication is always back and forth. It's not a one-way thing. They
Yeah.
were also communicating with him.
Very cool, Beena. Very cool. Very cool. Beautiful.
I need to sell some wool, the boy told the merchant. Oh, sorry, I just missed something. Yes.
Mm.
Okay. But for the past few days, he had spoken to them about only one thing, the girl, the daughter of the village. They would read about He had been to the village once the year before. The merchant was a proprietor of a dry goods shop, and he always demanded that the sheep be sheared in his presence so that he would not be cheated. A friend had told the boy about the shop, and he had taken his sheep there. I need to sell some wool, the boy told the merchant. The shop was busy, and the man asked the shepherd to wait until the afternoon. So the boy sat on the steps of the shop and took a book from his bag. I didn't know shepherd knew how to read, said a girl's voice behind him. The girl was typical of a region of Andalusia, with flowing black hair and eyes that vaguely recalled the Moorish conquerors. Well, usually I learn from my sheep than from books, he answered. During the 2 hours that they talked, she told him she was the merchant's daughter and spoke of life in the village, where each day was like all the others. The shepherd told her of the Andalusian countryside and related the news from the other towns where he had stopped. It was a pleasant change from talking to his sheep. How did you learn to read? The girl asked at one point. Like everybody learns, he said, in school. Well, if you know how to read, why are you just a shepherd? The boy mumbled an answer that allowed him to avoid responding to her question. He was sure the girl would never understand. He went on telling stories about his travels, and her bright Moorish eyes went wide with fear and surprise as the time passed. The boy found himself wishing that the day would never end, that her father would stay busy and keep him waiting for 3 days. He recognized that he was feeling something he had never experienced before, the desire to live in one place forever. With the girl with the raven hair, his days would never be the same again. But finally, the merchant appeared and asked the boy to shear 4 sheep. He paid for the wool and asked the shepherd to come back the following year. And now it was days before he would be back in that same village. He was excited and at the same time uneasy. Maybe the girl had already forgotten him. Lots of shepherds passed through selling their wool. It doesn't matter, he said to his sheep. I know other girls in other places. But in his heart, he knew that it did matter. And he knew that shepherds, like seamen and like traveling salesmen, always found a town where there was who could get the joys of carefree wandering. The day was dawning, and the shepherd urged his sheep in the direction of the sun. They never have to make any decision, he thought. Maybe that's why they always stay close to me. That was again, it was very huge for me, that the understanding of or awareness of responsibility of decision making. And then I like, wow. So he realized that the sheep are not able to make any decision, and they don't need to, and they are living very free. But also they are sheep, and they're just following his commands and his orders. So that was the power, or you can say that the burden. Okay,
Wow.
not power. The burden of responsibility of making decision making.
Yeah. Hmm.
The only thing that concerned the sheep were food and water. As long as the boy knew how to find the best pastures in Andalusia, they would be his friend.
Yeah.
Yes, their days were all the same, with the seemingly endless hours between sunrise and dusk, and they have never read a book in their young lives and didn't understand when the boy told them about the sights of the cities. They were content with just food and water, and in exchange, they generously gave up their wool, their company, and once in a while their meat. If I became a monster today and decided to kill them one by one, they would become aware only after most of the flock had been slaughtered, thought the boy. They trust me, and they have forgotten how to rely on their own instincts because I lead them to nourishment.
Yeah.
The boy was surprised at his thoughts. Maybe the church with the sycamore,
Sycamore.
yeah, sycamore growing from within had been haunted. It had caused him to have the same dream for a second time, and it was causing him to feel anger toward his faithful companions. He
Mm.
drank a bit from the wine that remained from his dinner of the night before, and he gathered his jacket closer to his body. He knew that a few hours from now, with the sun at its zenith, the heat would be so great that he would not be able to lead his flock across the fields. It was the time of the day when all of Spain slept during the summer. The heat lasted until nightfall, and all the time he had to carry his jacket. But when he thought to complain about the burden of its weight, he remembered that because he had the jacket, he had withstood the cold of the dawn.
Mm.
We have to be prepared for change, he thought, and he was grateful for the jacket's weight and warmth. The jacket had a purpose, and so did the boy. His purpose in life was to travel. And after 2 years of walking the Andalusian terrain, he knew all the cities of the region. He was planning on his visit to explain to the girl how it was that a simple shepherd knew how to read, that he had attended a seminary until he was 16. His parents had wanted him to become a priest and thereby a source of pride for a simple farm family. They worked hard just to have food and water. Like the sheep, he had studied Latin, Spanish, and theology. But ever since he had been a child, he had wanted to know the world, and this was much more important to him than knowing God and learning about man's sin. One afternoon, on a visit to his family, he had summoned up the courage to tell his father that he didn't want to become a priest, he wanted to travel. Okay. So the one thing about this whole after this decision making thing, he was choosing a difficult. He chose a difficult path. He could be completely safe and comfortable, and also he will get a lot of respect from his family and from his surrounding. Also, if he become a priest,
Yeah.
but instead he chose to become a shepherd. Like,
Yeah.
who wants to spend their whole life with animals, with sheep? But this was his choice,
Yeah.
and he was so uncomfortable. He was alone. He was wearing all the climate, and of course the weather thing. It was a horrible hot weather, but he had to carry his jacket also with him. He was not thinking about his looks. He was not thinking about um, his status or to try to be something or any ambition. It was just that this idea that I want to travel, and whatever way I'm going to pursue that, whatever way it is possible.
It's following what was important to him. They're
Yes.
not being influenced by things which are the typical influences: ego, status, importance, fame, all that nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
he's following a true intent, not a nonsense intent. Yes.
yes, and also that this this incident where the merchant's daughter asked him that how you learn to read
Yeah.
because you are a shepherd, and he missed that story. He just tried to avoid that story. He was avoiding that big time, and not exactly same, but something happened in my life day before yesterday.
Oh.
Yes,
Oh.
so. Um, one of Mama's friend arranged a meeting between a potential marriage proposal for me, and so they came to my house, and I was not really feeling happy about the whole situation. But I said, okay. And Mama was excited, and she says yes. So be there. And I had a session, and but I said okay, whatever it is, I'm going to. So, the guy was surprisingly very relaxed and not into any nonsense.
Hang on, Beena, hang on. I lost you there.
Okay.
Right. So you have to start the story again. So about Mama and the potential marriage proposal, and then they came to your house. That's where it dropped off.
Yeah, so they came to my house, mother and her son. And when I entered in the room, so they were having coffee, and so he smiled at me and he asked, "Okay, so Assalamu alaikum," like saying greeting. And I said,
Yeah.
"Okay, well, Islam." It was good that he is at least directly uh, talking, not just trying to directly look at me and inspect me. So he
Yeah.
simply said,
Yeah.
"Okay." That was good. And then his mother asked me, okay, what's your name? Okay, what you do? And when it comes to what you do, and I was like, uh, it's a bit tricky. It's a bit tricky to answer. But it comes out as that this guy, he's a government officer, but because he don't take any bribe, any commission, any kickbacks, so to maintain his lifestyle, uh, he is also a part-time tutor. He is a teacher, so uh,
Oh.
and he mentioned that. So and his mother was also, now she's not doing this, but she was also a teacher, and so his sisters who are married now. So when she asked me about, I got the feeling of teachers. Okay, it was very pleasant. It was very friendly way, but I was feeling that it was just simple the energy. And he says, okay, so what about this, and what is your degree and all that? And I said, oh, actually, I haven't completed that. And he said, why? That was the immediate question. Why? And my immediate response was because I was not interested to. And Mama and
Wow.
Farooq were looking at me. All four people in the room were looking at me, and I said, because I didn't want to, and I was never be uh, a brilliant student uh, because I was not interested in, and I was interested to be a textile designer, but we were not in that position financially. We couldn't afford, so I just gave up that idea that. So I have no credentials in this regard. And I was expecting for him to say, "Oh, okay," and then move on. But no, he says, "Interesting."
Wow.
Yeah, and he said, "Interesting." And he says, and what you do now? And then I start sharing with him, because it's a very tricky one to explain what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And he says, okay, so what? And he asked me a bit, and then he says, so you are working online, okay, not in Pakistan? And I said, yes, not in Pakistan. And he says, okay, so do you have any plans to move or to visit? Of course, I do have invitations also, but I really want to whenever it will be possible. Then he shared that okay, he himself was a U.S. citizen, and he says that
He himself is what?
he is a U.S. citizen.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And then because we were not aware before, and he says, yeah, because you shared with me, so no, you when you mentioned that, so I'm sharing now that I'm a U.S. citizen, and I do visit like often, but I cannot live there because of my mother is living here and also have a job here, so that's why I go there, but not for very long. And I was like, okay. And then we start discussing few things with Farouk, and then he asked me few things. And then he says, when I was coming out of that room, he says, oh, by the way, thank you so much for your time, and you're very brilliant. Okay,
It says, thank you very much for your time. And then
that
what?
was my response. You are
Hang on. Please repeat that when he said exactly the words. He said, thank you very much for your time. And then?
and then he says, oh, you are very brilliant, even brilliant than me. This is
Wow.
exactly what he said.
Wow.
And because I was like, for me it was a typical teacher's compliment. Like,
Wow.
very
No,
brilliant.
I think he
I
meant
said,
it
okay,
literally. He's seeing this, obviously,
yes.
the fullness of things. So, yeah, very cool. Anyway,
Sorry,
carry
say
on.
it again.
I think he probably meant it quite literally, because you are very brilliant. Anyway, carry on.
So my response was, oh, okay, thank you.
Good. You didn't minimize it. You took it very appropriate. Very cool.
So
And what's his name? And do you like Beena?
okay, so it was the first positive experience in this regard in my life.
Yeah.
It was never been positive. Okay.
Yeah.
It was not something
That's why I'm
really
asking. I am hearing that, which I never heard before, that it was positive. Yeah.
never had anything like this before.
Yeah.
Because I don't care about that, what it is like, okay, it is going to happen or not. But it was not a stressful time for me.
Good, Beena. Good. That's very encouraging. That's very encouraging. Yeah.
Yeah. It was not a stressful
Yeah.
time for me. And he was not into that, like, okay, do you know cooking? And okay, what no, it was not like that. He was asking me about what I really want to do and what I'm doing in my life. And this is really important. So that's why it was good for me. Particularly,
it was very encouraging. Yeah.
Yes, it was not like I like him, no, but the whole experience was positive for me.
Yeah. Did you all right, I'm assuming you didn't dislike him either, though, right?
No, I didn't dislike him, but I don't see him as my life partner. No, I don't see him because
But it's a
I
good
don't know what
start
it is.
on a path. If you are going to now go that path, that hey, a US husband, that's a positive right there, or at least open to travel, and also one who respects you and what you want, and is not looking for a housekeeper.
Yes, exactly. This is and I for me, I just take it as an omen or a sign that there are people in this world who are into moreness without being completely aware of it, but they are. And they do appreciate things. It doesn't matter that, okay, I'm going to marry or he's not. No, it's an irrelevant question for me. But just having a good experience, a positive experience, not good, not bad, but positive. So this is something really interesting for me. And same thing, everybody was looking at me, and I said, because I was trying to avoid that question, but they were teachers. They were so keen about which degree you have, in which school you were studying, what you were studying, and I said it open and out loud and clear. I was not a brilliant student at all, and because I was not.
Not into what again?
Simple. I was not a position in my school life because I was not interested in.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Very cool.
I was never been
So,
interested in school.
yeah.
No.
So I'm
was
curious
boring.
to know what about him didn't really connect, or how come there wasn't more there, or is that, maybe it's one of those questions that you don't know why there's more. You never know, but maybe.
Okay. Why I don't see that moreness? It was something about him. Okay, he was a tall guy, not short. He was tall, but there was something about him which I was feeling like he is kind of in a happy-go-lucky type of nature. The way he was talking, though he was very appropriate, he was very impeccable in his talk, but there was something which I was feeling like that he just not what I really want. Okay, this is how I can say. This is not what exactly what I want.
Yeah.
He has so many things, like, okay, like ticking, okay, tick, 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 but there were few missing things still, of course.
Yeah, and that's it.
Very,
It has to
very
be.
important
Yeah,
ones.
exactly. It has to be everything's very important. Yeah. Very, very, very important.
Very important one. So, like me, this is an absolute. I don't want anyone like me, but of course, I want to have to be with someone who's not looking up to me and checking that am I okay, or am I mentally okay or not, this type of thing, like, okay, because people who are very practical and who are like very into, like, again, he's doing jobs, and he's giving tuitions and everything. He's into that paradigm of life, that everything has to be proper. You understand my point?
Say again.
He is into that paradigm of life where everything has to be proper, needs to be proper.
That's very, very limiting. Yeah.
So that was something, maybe, I'm not sure, but that was something like not clicking in that way. But it's a good sign. Okay, yes, at least I didn't have a stressful time there.
Yeah. So it's getting better.
Before it was horrible. It was horrible. Okay. How people from all over the world have through this village. Son, said his father, but when they leave, they are basically the same people they were when they arrived. They climbed the mountains to see the castle, and they went up thinking that the past was better than what we have now. They have blonde hair or darkest. Basically, they are the same as the people who live right here. But I'd like to see the castles and the towers in the towns where they live. The boy explained. People see our land say that they would like to live here forever. His father continued. Well, I'd like to see their land and see how they live, said his son. The people who come here have a lot of money to spend, so they can afford to travel, his father said. Amongst us, the only ones who travel are the shepherds. Well, then I'll be a shepherd. His father said no more. The next day he got a sun that held three ancient Spanish gold coins. I found these one day in the fields. I wanted them to be a part of your inheritance, but use them to buy your flock. Take to the fields, and someday you'll learn that our countryside is the best and our woman the most beautiful. And he gave the boy his blessings. The boy could see in his father's gaze a desire to be able himself to travel the world, a desire that was still alive despite his father's having had to bury it over dozens of years under the burden of struggling for water to drink, food to eat, and the same place to sleep every night of his life.
Well, it was very good of his father to be supportive, yes?
Yes, it was like a hidden desire. He don't want to continue
Yeah.
with this discussion. Like maybe he might be afraid of to lose himself and start saying that, oh yes, I had the dream, and he don't want that. So he simply says, okay. That was the whole discussion. And next day he says, this was something I have now. Buy your flock and be a shepherd.
Yeah. So a bit of luck there for Santiago. His father's not necessarily truly enlightened. He just, okay, by proxy, his son is living his own dream. So it's lucky for Santiago. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
The horizon was tinged with red, and suddenly the sun appeared. The boy thought back to that conversation with his father and felt happy. He had already seen many castles and met many women, but none the equal of the one who awaited him several days hence. He owned a jacket, a book that he could trade for another, and a flock of sheep. But most important, he was able every day to live out his dream. If he were to tire of the Andalusian field, he could sell his sheep and go to the sea. By the time he had had enough of the sea, he would already have known other cities, other women, and other chances to be happy. I couldn't have found God in the seminary, he thought as he looked at the sunrise. Wherever he could, he sought out a new road to travel. He had never been to that ruined church before. In spite of having traveled through those parts many times, the world was huge and inexhaustible. He had only to allow his sheep to set the route for a while, and he would discover other interesting things. The problem is that they don't even realize that they are walking a new road every day. They don't
Yeah.
see that the fields are new and the seasons change. All they think about is food and water. This is so huge because, okay, it was that he wanted to experience adventure every day, every moment in his life. This was his call.
Yeah.
Though, if we look at shepherd life in our regular way, it was like herding your sheep, searching for food and water for them instead of yourself. You are doing the same thing. Now you are searching for food and water for them. What's the point? What's the point to suffer with all this harsh weather, all this traveling, all this loneliness, all that? When we go in detail, we see that he is having no disturbance at all. He is spending his time, whatever he is getting for reading, he's spending his time whenever he wants to meet some new people. He entered in a new city, but also even during the traveling, he's not waiting for a castle to come to see and enjoy. He's saying that, okay, right now, whatever I'm having, any fields, mountains, deserts, lakes, whatever it is, it's new
Yeah.
for him, and he is observing all of it, every
Yeah.
moment of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is so
By the way, it's
interesting.
not true that the sheep only think about food and water.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it's not true. it's presented as this absolute fact, but anybody who's been around sheep will know they also think about reproduction. They don't think about safety all the time, but when threatened, then they think about safety. But it's sheep are very placid. Some other animals are nervy. They're always on the lookout for danger. They're thinking about survival, but sheep aren't like that. They just when it's unless there's a threat, they don't think about survival, but they certainly do think about reproduction, right? So it's food, water, and reproduction.
But isn't it same for every animal?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Some animals do think about safety as well. Like I said, they're nervy, and you see them, they'll eat a little bit, they'll look up and look around, and, they're constantly on guard. So they are thinking about 4 things, but the sheep only think of 3. Yeah. And not
Okay.
just 2. Yeah. So, it's a simplistic thing, but it's important because, as a shepherd, he's part of his being a shepherd is, the sheep reproducing. That's how you grow your flock. He's not making them reproduce. He's not forcing them to reproduce. This they do quite naturally and, quite eagerly. So it's definitely on their minds all the time. Yeah. Yeah. They're thinking about it as much as they think about food and water. Yeah. Now, like I said, anybody who's been
Okay.
around sheep or any herd animal will know this. Yeah.
Okay.
Or any animals, because all animals, food, water, reproduction, the 3 things that they think about. And, like I said, safety also. Not all animals are thinking about safety, like sheep, some that only comes up when necessary, and especially with predators, it's not something that they constantly considering, unless they're thinking about their children, their babies, their young. Then some of them are very hyperly concerned with that. But even sheep, when they're young, the mothers aren't hyperly vigilant. Sheep are very mindless in that way. They're very responsive. They only think about safety when they get threatened. It's fascinating. You're not preemptive. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is, where the classicness of the mindlessness of sheep come along. Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it does make
But
sense
anyway,
now.
I just thought I'd mention it because it's the
Yes.
second time he mentions it's all about that. All they think about is food and water. But no, yeah,
Okay.
it's disingenuous, and it bothers me a little bit in the story because you're talking about a shepherd and a shepherd who should know better. So you are deliberately limiting the truth because it makes the story a little bit more pleasant to bring in to say all I think about food and water and reproduction. Yeah, now you're adding a different element into things, right? You're taking away from that childish naivety. But I'm sorry, as a shepherd, you aren't childishly naive when it comes to this. I don't care how young you are, right? If you've grown up and you've been around sheep, for more than a week, you know this. Yeah. So it's
Okay.
disingenuous. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. They don't see that the fields are new and the seasons change. All they think about is food and water. Maybe we are all that way. The boy mused. Even me. I haven't thought of other women since I met the merchant's daughter. Looking at the sun, he calculated that he would reach Tarifa before midday. There, he could exchange his book for a thicker one, fill his wine bottle, shave, and have a haircut. He had to prepare himself for his meeting with the girl, and he didn't want to think about the possibility that some other shepherd with a larger flock of sheep had arrived there before him and asked for her hand. This is again, he was deliberately not thinking about. And that
Yeah.
was the very obvious cueing that when you are into something, like, okay, just focus on
Right.
that.
Right. But he's thinking about reproduction. All right. Not directly, indirectly, but that's why actually in that whole section there, all the sheep think about is food and water. But no, he's thinking about at least the beginnings toward the end point of reproduction. Right. He's interested in the girl. That he doesn't transmit this to the sheep. Like I said, it's disingenuous writing for me a little bit. It's a bit bothersome.
Okay. Okay.
Right. All right.
For you, yes.
Well, still, if a shepherd is not aware that his sheep are also thinking about reproduction, then you cannot be a shepherd and not have this. Sorry. It's as basic as them thinking about food and water.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So
Okay.
to leave it out, it's either his awareness is missing or it's deliberate.
Okay. Yes, maybe. It's a possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting.
Ah,
What is there? It's a possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting, he thought, as he looked again at the position of the sun and hurried his pace. He had suddenly remembered that in Tarifa there was an old woman who interpreted dreams.
yeah.
The old woman led the boy to a room at the back of her house. It was separated from her living room by a curtain of colored beads. The room's furnishings consisted of a table, an image of the sacred and sat down and told him to be seated as well. Then she took both of his hands in hers and began quietly to pray. It sounded like a gypsy prayer. The boy had already had experience on the road with gypsies. They also traveled, but they had no flocks of sheep. People said that gypsies spent their lives tricking others. It was also said that they had a pact with the devil and that they kidnapped children and taking them away to their mysterious camps, made them their slaves. As a child, the boy had always been frightened to death that he would be captured by gypsies, and this childhood fear returned when the old woman took his hands in hers. But she has the sacred heart of Jesus there, he thought, trying to reassure himself. He didn't want his hand to begin trembling, showing the old woman that he was a fearful. He was fearful. He recited, and our fathers silently. Very interesting, said the woman, never taking her eyes from the boy's hands, and then she fell silent. The boy was becoming nervous. His hands began to tremble, and the woman sensed it. He quickly pulled his hands away. I didn't come here to have you read my palm, he said, already regretting having come. He thought for a moment that it would be better to pay her fee and leave without learning a thing, that he was giving too much importance to his recurrent dream. You came so that you could learn about your dreams, said the old woman, and dreams are the language of God. When he speaks in our language, I can interpret what he said, what he has said. But if he speaks in the language of the soul, it is only you who can understand. But whichever it is, I'm going to charge you for the for the consultation. Another trick, the boy thought. But he decided to take a chance. A shepherd always takes his chances with wolves and with droughts, and that's what makes a shepherd's life exciting. I have had the same dream twice, he said. I dreamed that I was in a field with my sheep when a child appeared and began to play with the animals. I don't like people to do that because the sheep are afraid of strangers, but children always seems to be able to play with them without frightening them. I don't know why. I don't know how animals know the age of human beings. Tell me more about your dream, said the woman. I have to get back to my cooking. And since you don't have much money, I can't give you a lot of time. The child went on playing with my sheep for quite a while, continued the boy, a bit upset. And suddenly the child the child took me by both hands and transported me to the Egyptian pyramids. He paused for a moment to see if the woman knew what the Egyptian pyramids were, but she said nothing. Then, at the Egyptian pyramids, he said the last three words slowly so that the old woman would understand. The child said to me, if you come here, you will find a hidden treasure. And just as she was about to show me the exact location, I woke up both times. The woman was silent for some time. Then she again took his hand and studied them carefully. I'm not going to charge you anything now, she said, but I want 1/10 of the treasure if you find it. The boy laughed. out of happiness, he was going to be able to save the little money he had because of a dream about hidden treasure. Well, interpret the dream, he said. First, swear to me. Swear that you will give me 1/10 of your treasure in exchange for what I'm going to tell you. The shepherd saw that he would. The old woman asked him to swear again while looking at the image of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. It's a dream in the language of the world, she said. I can interpret it, but the interpretation is very difficult. That's why I feel that I deserve a part of what you find. And this is my interpretation. You must go to the pyramids in Egypt. I have never heard of them, but if it was a child who showed them to you, they exist. There you will find a treasure that will make you a rich man. The boy was surprised and then irritated. He didn't need to seek out the old woman for this. But then he remembered that he wasn't going to have to pay anything. I didn't need to waste my time just for this, he said. I told you that your dream was a difficult one. It's the simple thing in life that are the most extraordinary. Again, a huge sentence for me. It's the simple things in life that are the most extraordinary.
Yeah.
And I still remember that. It was very much full of awareness for me. Okay.
Yeah.
Only wise men are able to understand them. And since I'm not wise, I have had to learn other arts, such as reading of palms. Well, how am I going to get to Egypt? I only interpret dreams. I don't know how to turn them into reality. That's why I have to live off what my daughters provide me with. And what if I never get to Egypt? Then I don't get paid. It wouldn't be the first time. And the woman told the boy to leave, saying she had already wasted too much time with him. So the boy was disappointed. He decided that he would never again believe in dreams. He remembered that he had a number of things he had to take care of. He went to the market for something to eat. He traded his book for one that was thicker, and he found a bench in the plaza where he could sample the new wine he had bought. The day was hot, and the wine was refreshing. The sheep were at the gates of the city in a stable that belonged to a friend. The boy knew a lot of people in the city. That was what made traveling appeal to him. He always made new friends, and he didn't need to spend all of his time with them. When someone sees the same people every day, as had happened with him at the seminary, they went up becoming a part of that person's life. And then they want the person to change. If someone isn't what others want them to be, the others become angry. Everyone seems to have a clear idea of how the people should lead their lives, but none about his or her own. He decided to wait until the sun had sunk a bit lower in the sky before following his flock back through the fields. 3 days from now, he would be with the merchant's daughter. He started to read the book he had bought. On the very first page, it described a burial ceremony, and the name of the people involved were very difficult to pronounce. If he ever wrote a book, he thought, he would present one person at a time so that the reader wouldn't have to worry about memorizing a lot of names.
Read that part again, please, Beena.
He started to read the book he had bought. On the very first page, it described a burial ceremony, and the names of the people involved were very difficult to pronounce. If he ever wrote a book, he thought he would present one person at a time so that the reader wouldn't have to worry about memorizing a lot of names.
Interesting. So what do you make of the gypsy interpretation?
Again, for me, it's not about the whatever the medium people are using or whatever or any person involved in that. It never nothing actually depends on anyone or any medium. It's all about now. It is my now takeaway of that. And it's not about it's not dependent on any person or any medium, but it's and whoever coming into your life, no matter how absurd or how weird it seems like on surface, it's just part of it. They are the messenger. They give you something, you gave them something, and that's it. You don't need to just cling to that idea that, okay, oh, I'm not into this, or this is the final thing. No, it doesn't work like that. I to any gypsy person to see my hands or to interpret my dreams or something like that. But if something will happen and if they will come into my life, I will not resist. I will say, okay, so what you have, because maybe that experience is something will open more awareness for me or moreness, simple that.
Mm.
Because on surface, if you would ask me, it's not my thing. Sorry, no, I don't need that interpretation from
Yeah.
anyone who is looking at a globe and saying that, oh yes, okay, so now the clouds are coming and you will meet someone. No, it is same with astrology. It is same with any other thing like that. So
Yeah.
though I was and still it is with me because I was forced to learn astrology, and I just learned it till I feel resolved, like, because that was a point where I was stuck. The universe was pushing me back again to that thing. Every now and then I was going back to the same thing, and I said, okay, if it is so, accept it, no matter how weird it is for you, Beena, how unpleasant it is for you, just get a resolution. And I said, okay. And that astrology, which was so irritated for me, which was so annoying for me, is a reason behind, part of that reason behind all the moreness I have in my life right now.
Mm.
Because it all started with this thing, like I just I was reading something. It was an article astrology stuff, and I had no friends, nothing on Facebook. If you know that already, you are aware of all that story. And I was reading some article, and it was very interesting, and it was new for me. So I just asked a question in the group that, okay,
Mm.
what it means, what about this? That was the whole thing. And the group admin respond to that, and she says, the way you asked, it was very polite, it was very okay, it was very gentle, and I really like that, so that's why I'm responding. And
Mm.
from that was the conversation.
Yeah.
That hacker Hasham picked me up from that astrology group, and he hacked my account. He make himself my friend. I was not aware that I have friend now. And then he make everything. And this is how I met Alan.
Yeah.
And then Alan just showed me that, okay, how it is. And this is how I start learning and growing, and everything started. And then Alan sent me to Arts Council. But I was also, Alan showed me a lot of other things. That's why you were in my newsfeed, and you were my friend.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
so acceptance is a magic. Okay, if something is happening again and again, coming back to you, or you are going back to the same thing, just get a resolution
Yeah.
and accept that okay, this is part of my life, no matter how absurd it is. Okay, done. The universe is going to create something out of it. Otherwise, you would never go back.
Yeah.
So resolution is a big thing, and I just followed that omen. I simply surrendered to this idea of astrology. I was so annoyed with this. I don't like astrology at all. But I said, okay. And people say that from every bad, something good uh, can always come. It's a possibility. So for me, the huge good come out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I might not be here today, Might
Very
be.
cool, Beena.
I'm not saying with absoluteness, but I might not be here today. So at least astrology serve a purpose, a good purpose in my life in
Yeah,
this regard.
yeah, yeah.
All magical stories, Sil. All magical stories.
Very magical, Beena. Very magical.
You were saying that it's a very magical story of Santiago. And I said, yeah, because I can relate to that.
Very interesting and fascinating to me.
And not only me, millions of people out there, they feel like, oh, wow,
Yeah, yeah,
Alchemist. Yeah. Changed my life. Changed my life.
yeah.
Okay.
Very powerful, Beena. Very cool. Very cool. Very
When
cool.
he was finally able to concentrate on what he was reading, he liked the book better. Gabriel was on a snowy day, and he welcomed the feeling of being cold. As he read on, an old man
He
sat
read.
down
He
at his
read on. Yeah, past
as he
tense.
read on, yes, as he read on, an old man sat down at his side and tried to strike up a conversation. What are they doing? The old man asked, pointing at the people in the plaza. Working, the boy answered dryly, making it look as if he wanted to concentrate on his reading. Actually, he was thinking about shearing his sheep in front of the merchant's daughter so that she could see that he was someone who was capable of doing difficult things. He had already imagined the scene many times. Every time the girl became fascinated when he explained that the sheep had to be sheared from back to front. He also tried to remember some good stories to relate as he sheared the sheep. Most of them he had read in books, but he would tell them as if they were from his personal experience. She would never know the difference because she didn't know how to read.
Oh,
Meanwhile, the old man persisted in his attempt to strike up a conversation. He said that he was tired and thirsty and asked if he might have a sip of the boy's wine. The boy offered his bottle, hoping that the old man would leave him alone. But the old man wanted to talk. And he asked the boy what book he was reading. The boy was tempted to be rude and move to another bench, but his father had taught him to be respectful of the elderly. So he held out the book to the man for two reasons. First, that he himself wasn't sure how to pronounce the title. The second, that if the old man didn't know how to read, he would probably feel ashamed and decide of his own accord to change benches. Says the old man, looking at all sides of the book as if it were some strange object. This is an important book, but it's really irritating. The boy was shocked. The old man knew how to read and had already read the book. And if the book was irritating, as the old man had said, the boy still had time to change it for another. It's a book that says the same thing almost all the other books in the world say, continued the old man. It describes people's inability to choose their own destinies. And it ends up saying that everyone believes the world's greatest lie. What's the world's greatest lie? The boy asked, completely surprised. It's this, that at a certain point in our lives, we lose control of what's happening to us, and our lives become controlled by fate. That's the world's greatest lie. That's never happened to me, the boy said. They wanted me to be a priest, but I decided to become a shepherd. Much better, said the old man, because you really like to travel. He knew what I was thinking, the boy said to himself. The old man, meanwhile, was leafing through the book. Without seeming to want to return it at all, the boy noticed that the man was he looked like an Arab, which was not unusual in those parts. Africa was only a few hours from Tarifa. One had only to cross the narrow straits by boat. Arabs often appeared in the city, shopping and chanting their strange prayers several times a day. Where are you from? The boy asked. From many places. From internet. No one can be from many places.
Yes. I'm from everywhere and nowhere all at the same time. How about that?
Yes. No one can be from many places, the boy said. I'm a shepherd and I have been to many places, but I come from only one place, from a city near an ancient castle. That's where I was born. Well, then we could say that I was born in Salem. The boy didn't know where Salem was, but to talk, fearing that he would appear ignorant. He looked at the people in the plaza for a while. They were coming and going, and all of them seemed to be very busy. So, what is Salem like? He asked, trying to get some sort of clue. It's like it always has been. not, not giving any clue until you actually ask. No clue yet, but he knew that Salem wasn't in Andalusia. If it were, he would already have heard of it. And what do you do in Salem? He insisted. What do I do in Salem? The old man laughed. Well, I'm the king of Salem.
Oh,
People say strange things, the boy thought. Sometimes it's better to be with the sheep who don't say anything, and better still to be alone with one's book. They tell their incredible stories at the time when you want to hear them. But when you are talking to people, they say some things that are so strange that you don't know how to continue the conversation. Okay. Now it's a big task for me. I cannot pronounce this. My name is Melchizedek. I don't know. Melchizedek.
try. Don't give up so easily.
Melchizedek. I don't know. Melchizedek.
Yeah, hold on.
Melchizedek. Something like that.
I get to it.
Kai, a chai or chi, Melchizedek. No, this is not Arab name. It must have different pronunciation if it is
Yeah,
an Arab name.
Melchizedek. Yeah, Melchizedek. Yeah.
Yeah. Said the old man, how many sheep do you have? Enough, said the boy. He could see that the old man wanted to know more about his life. Well, then we have got a problem. I can't help you if you feel you have got enough sheep. The boy was getting irritated. He wasn't asking for help. It was the old man who had asked for a drink of his wine and had started the conversation. Give me my book back, the boy said. I have to go and gather my sheep and get going. Give me 1/10 of your sheep, said the old man, and I'll tell you how to find the hidden treasure. The boy remembered his dream, and suddenly everything was clear to him. The old woman hadn't charged him anything, but the old man, maybe he was her husband, was going to find a way to get much more money in exchange for information about something that didn't even exist. The old man was probably a gypsy too. The boy could say anything, the old man leaned over, picked up a stick, and began to write in the sand of the plaza. Something bright reflected from his chest with such intensity that the boy was momentarily blinded. With a movement that was too quick for someone his age, the man covered whatever it was with his cape. When his vision returned to normal, the boy was able to read what the old man had written in the sand. There, in the center of the plaza of that small city, the boy read the names of his father and his mother and the name of this seminary he had attended. He read the name of the merchant's daughter, which he hadn't even known, and he read things he had never told anyone. I'm the king of Salem, the old man had said. Why would a king be talking with a shepherd? The boy asked, odd and embarrassed. For several reasons, but let's say the most important is that you have succeeded in discovering your destiny. The boy didn't know what a person's destiny was. It's what you have always wanted to accomplish. Everyone, when they are young, knows what their destiny is. At that point in their lives, everything is clear and everything is possible. They are not afraid to dream. and to yearn for everything they would like to see happen to them in their lives. But as time passes, a mysterious force begins to convince them that it will be impossible for them to realize their destiny. But this is something truly opposite for me. I
What
had
is?
no idea. I had no idea. Even I still have the destiny thing. I don't resonate with this. But
Mm,
I also had no idea which path to take. I was lost and I was like, okay, whatever is coming, I'm just following it. The only thing I feel that I never said no to anything which was offered to me.
mm,
I never said no, even when I had no idea what it is. I never said no. I accept things as they come. So this is something I can say that yes, I'm appreciative and I do acknowledge and I follow and I live in attunement. But the idea, no. People say that in your young age, you have all the clarity, you have all the passion, all the ambition, blah, 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 blah. No, it was not for me. No. And it is still not for me. So this is kind of opposite for me.
interesting.
Yeah. None of what the old man was saying made much sense to the boy, but he wanted to know what the mysterious force was. The merchant's daughter would be impressed when he told her about that.
One thing on his brain. One thing on his brain.
And also that when when we haven't seen um, anything really good in our life, we don't know the luxuries, we don't know, we are not aware of the delicacies, the luxuries in life. All we think about, like, oh, if someone offer you like a diamond, you would say, oh my, okay, how much money I can have when I will sell this diamond, because there is no use
Mm,
of diamond. So this is what he is trying to do. That king was offering him a whole new world of adventure and experiences and awareness. But what he's saying that, okay, how can I impress by this knowledge, by this blah, 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 that merchant's daughter? He had no idea that what it is. It's not like that he's not appreciative, but he actually have no idea. So it happens sometimes.
very interesting.
It's a force that appears to be negative, but actually shows you how to realize your destiny. It appears you're a spirit, and your will. Because there is one great truth on this planet: whoever you are, or whatever it is that you do, when you really want something, it's because the desire originated in the soul of the universe. It's your mission on earth. Even when all you want to do is travel or marry the daughter of a textile merchant. Yes, or even search for treasure. The soul of the world is nourished by people's happiness and also by unhappiness. Greed and jealousy to realize one's destiny is a person's only real obligation. All things are one. Yes, or even search for treasure. The soul of the world is nourished by people's happiness and also by unhappiness. Nourished by happiness and by happiness. Envy and jealousy to realize one's destiny is a person's only real obligation. All things are one. And when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. They were both silent for a time, observing the plaza and the townspeople. It was the old man who spoke first. Why do you tend a flock to sheep? Because I like to travel. The old man pointed to a baker standing in his shop window at one corner of the plaza. When he was a child, that man wanted to travel too, but he decided first to buy his bakery and put some money aside. When he is an old man, he is going to spend a month in Africa. He never realized people are capable at any time in their lives of doing what they dream of. He should have decided to become a shepherd, the boy said. Well, he thought about that, the old man said. But bakers are more important people than shepherds. Bakers have homes, while shepherds sleep out in the open. Parents would rather see their children marry bakers than shepherd. Wow. The boy felt a pang in his heart, thinking about the merchant's daughter. There was surely a baker in her town. The old man continued. In the long run, what people think about shepherds and bakers becomes more important for them than their own destinies. The old man leafed through the book and fell to reading a page he came to. The boy waited and then interrupted the old man just as he himself had been interrupted. Why are you telling me all this? Because you are trying to realize your destiny and you are at the point where you are about to give it all up.
Mm.
And that's when you always appear on the scene. Not always in this way, but I always appear in one form or another. Sometimes I appear in the form of a solution or a good idea. At other times, at a crucial moment, I make it easier for things to happen.
Mm.
There are other things I do too, but most of the time, people don't realize I have done them. See, and you were asking that, okay, it's also magical and it's also fantasy kind of story, and people do relate with this. This is here when he says that sometimes I appear in the form of a solution or a good idea. So you don't need actual physical representation of king or an angel into your life or a guide. Okay, so something happened. Okay, because you were focused on something, you were really trying to get something or to do something, and then the
Yeah.
solution appears. And this is how he is cueing all his readers to not look for any specifics. Forget all these specifics and just see. Just put. Alan said to me before I read this book. He says, just put yourself on the path, and then everything will be. And I was like, how this is going to happen and how to put myself on the back. So he said, go to Arts Council, not on phone, go there, present yourself, ask for a job with the payment. Not no free stuff, Beena. And I said, okay. And I went there and I asked for a job and I asked for the paid job and I got it.
Mm.
And it was an experience. It was very necessary for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he said, Beena, later, whatever is going to happen, don't worry about this. What job they are going to offer you, what will happen, they might refuse you or not. Just present yourself where you want to be. And Arts Council in his at this time, that was the most appropriate place. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. I learned a lot there. And of course, I got money.
So
Of
I
course,
lost
it
you,
was very
Beena.
limited. Yes? Sorry? Oh, I don't know why it is like this now. Say something. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Oh. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Can you hear me, Beena?
Yes.
All right. I have to put you louder. Yeah, I dropped
Okay.
off there. I think both of us dropped, yeah?
No, I was hearing you, and then suddenly your voice dropped, and I was able to see. I was here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, continue, Beena.
Yes. The old man related that the week before he had been forced to appear before a miner and had taken the form of a stone. The miner had abandoned everything to go mining for emeralds. For 5 years, he had been working a certain river and had examined hundreds of thousands of stones looking for an emerald. The miner was about to give it all up, right at the point when, if he were to examine just one more stone, just one more, he would find his emerald. Since the miner had sacrificed everything to his destiny, the old man decided to become involved. He transformed himself into a stone that rolled up to the miner's foot. The miner, with all the anger and frustration of his 5 fruitless years, picked up the stone and threw it aside. But he had thrown it with such force that it broke. The stone it fell upon, and there, embedded in the broken stone, was the most beautiful emerald in the world. People learn early in their lives what is their reason, said the old man, with a certain bitterness. Maybe that's why they give up on it so early, too. But that's the way it is. The boy reminded the old man that he had said something about hidden treasure. Treasure is uncovered by the force of flowing water. And it is buried by the same currents, said the old man. If you want to learn about your own treasure, you will have to give me 1/10 of your flock. What about 1/10 of my own? Disappointed. If you start out by promising what you don't even have yet, you will lose your desire to work toward getting it. I want you to explain it to me. Yes?
Me?
Yes?
Oh, I thought you were reading. Sorry, you said that as if it was part of the text.
No.
So, all right, repeat again. Sorry, I lost then. I didn't realize the question is directed at me. So you have to change your
Okay.
tone to make sure it's out of the story, not read it in the same tone as story. It confused me otherwise.
Okay. Treasure is uncovered by the force of flowing water, and it is buried by the same currents, said the old man. If you want to learn about your own treasure, you have to give me 1/10 of your flock. What about 1/10 of my treasure? The old man looked disappointed. If you start out by promising what you don't even have yet, you will lose your desire to work toward getting it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And I remember that I was paused there the first time too.
To me, the whole thing here is a bit, muddled. First of all, treasure isn't just uncovered by the force of flowing water and buried by the same currents. Many ways that treasure gets buried and uncovered. So, I don't know. It's a bit peculiar. Maybe in a mining context, all right. Alluvial mining, fine. But not in general. So, okay, now you have to take it as literally. It applies in some circumstances, but he's making it in a very general statement here. So we have to take it much in a metaphoric sense, right? Flowing water to be okay, energy, right? So it's uncovered by flowing energy, and it's buried by the same energy. Okay, all right, fine. But then he says, if you start out by promising what you don't even have yet, you'll lose your desire to work towards getting it. Why this is an absolute, I don't know. Again, why it's so. For some people, it may be so, and some maybe not. I haven't particularly seen this to be an observation that I've noticed in general. That if people promise what they don't even have yet, that sometimes makes them more motivated because you promised it. Your integrity forces you to be committed now. You've made a commitment, you've made a promise. So, sorry, old man, I don't agree. No, doesn't make sense. Yeah.
Okay. So
Right?
another reason
To
for
me, at any
so
rate.
okay. So for another reason why people do easily or get easily connected and feel resonate with this book and this story, because it shows you a very practical side of it. Like the first when the gypsy woman and she says and she says, "Okay, give me 1/10 of it. I want that." And then the king of Salem came in and he says, "Okay, you have to give me one of this, 1/10 of your flock, not even a treasure." And he is like in the traditional or conventional way. Mostly what inspiring stories are written, or motivational stories or fairy tales. You don't have to give anything. You just have to be good, all nice, and then someone will come, will appear in your life, and they will give you everything, whatever you need to get things done. They will give you some power, they will give you some magic or some whatever it is. This is how
And
mostly
have you
conventionally.
observed this, that magical people come into people's lives like this king?
No, I'm just saying that in conventional or fairy tales and everything like that, this is what happened. Oh, people, some power, some godmother or godfather or a fairy comes in and it will give you something, but never in exchange of things like in a very practical way. He is giving him and promising to give him some idea about that, but asking him, okay, 1/10 of your flock, you have to give up something. And this is why I feel that people do feel connected to that story and don't take it as something in a fairy tale way, because it's a very practical trading going on there. This guy is coming and asking for his flock. Okay, 1/10. If you're not agree, sorry, you're losing, I'm not going to give you. It's not like, oh, all magical, all thing. No, it's a give and take here. You have to be ready to give up something if you really want something. It could be your time, it could be your energy, it could be your fun time, it could be your entertainment, it could be your rest time, or anything, or wealth. You need to be ready for this, and okay, it is going to cost you something. All awareness, that awareness, of course it costs a lot of energy, it costs a lot of time and effort, and of course the sacrificing in that way, that oh, you give up on watching that nonsense movie sometimes, like no, I want to be in company with someone else, okay, because I will get more awareness, I will be more, uh, I will become more impeccable if I'll be there. You give up a lot of things if you want to remain in that, okay, whatever your idea of perfect body is. You have to give up your temptations, like, oh no, I will not eat much, I will not eat more, because I don't want to be in that phase. See, so it's a give and take, it's a universe. You want a flower, okay, either you have to pay for it, either you have to grow it. Put some energy, give some energy, invest some energy, and this is what he is saying right there. But the most interesting sentence for me is, if you start out by promising what you don't even have yet, you will lose your desire to work toward getting it. Okay.
And do you think that's
First,
true or not? Or even
so the
something?
first, yeah, this
Right?
the first part makes sense to me, that okay, how can I promise something which I don't have yet, right? Like already I didn't have that. How can I promise something to
Of
them?
course you can.
It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, oh, I don't have it right now. So
But you
what is
can
this?
promise what you don't have.
People do that,
I mean,
but it
Santiago
doesn't make
did it earlier with the dream woman.
exactly. I'm saying that it is. This is what people do, but it doesn't make any sense,
I don't see why it doesn't
or
make any sense.
especially for people who wants to live in the now, who have like this philosophy, no expectations, no obligation. How can you promise something which is not here yet, and you are just promising for something like in future? No, how can you? So this is. Can you hear me?
Yeah, listening.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. So
Beena,
for me,
sorry, but if you've promised something that you don't have yet to Frauke.
people do that. I'm not saying that we don't do that. No, I'm not saying
You're
that
saying
it
it doesn't
it,
make sense. Of course, it makes sense. Sorry,
it doesn't make any sense. Okay, how it makes sense?
because you are saying that I will do this, so you're making a promise about delivering something in the future. I don't know why
But
you.
there is okay, but there is no certainty that he will get something like this. He was about to make a promise that I
Right.
will give 1/10 of the treasure,
Yeah.
and he says that, but you don't have it right now. How
Right,
can you promise something?
but he's not making a point about whether or not there's a realistic possibility of you getting it. He's making a point that about motivation. Yeah.
Yes, yes. That's why I was saying that the first part, I was just part of that sentence, I was focusing on that. Okay, now in the context, this whole sentence, oh, your picture is frozen for me. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So now the whole sentence, because yes, it is in context, it is not like isolated one. So
right.
if you start out by promising what you don't even have yet, you will lose your desire to work toward getting it. That
Which,
is something
which doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me again.
okay. Okay, I want to think about it. What if it does make sense to you?
It doesn't. I mean, just from when you think it through, first of all, you can promise what you don't have. I mean, Santiago's already did that. It certainly didn't lose his motivation. I mean, he's still motivated to go after his treasure, even though he promised 1/10 of it to the old woman. So Santiago's very personal experience is contradicting this.
Hmm.
You promised that you're going to do I don't know, whatever work you're going to do for Frauke, the stuff that you've been working on now, right? And you starting to deliver on it. It didn't change your motivation that you said, okay, I'm going to do, I forget the things that you're doing for her, the, gosh, I can't, what did you promise to do for Frauke?
Okay, I just said, okay, I'm going to write newsletters.
There we go. Okay, so the newsletter, right? You promised to write the newsletter. It's not something you have, something you're going to do, but that didn't affect your motivation, right? You didn't lose
No, but
motivation because you promised something you didn't have. So it's a
no,
nonsense statement. It's just complete nonsense. Sorry.
but he's saying that if you start out what have yet start out promising, like, okay, it is in context still.
Even in
He is
context, it
promising
didn't change
something to
Santiago's
give.
motivation.
No,
Yeah.
he is promising something to give to someone which he don't have yet.
Exactly. So did you with Frauke.
Like what?
You promised a newsletter. You don't have the newsletter yet, do you?
Yes, but I'm not promising someone else that, okay, I will give. Okay, it is like,
Well, of course, you're
if
promising
I will.
Frauke. You're promising Frauke you're going to give her something, which is the newsletter. You don't have it yet. You promised her something you don't have.
But you are taking it in a different way, because King Salim is asking
Sorry, Beena.
something.
Okay, so Santiago promised something he didn't have. He promised 1/10 of his treasure, which he doesn't yet have. Now,
Yes,
so the first part is one is able to do this, to promise what you don't have, right? But that's not the point
yes,
of the old man's or the king's comment.
yes,
The point is
yes,
not that you can or cannot promise what you don't have. Of course, you can promise what you don't have. You can promise what doesn't exist even. You can promise somebody a square circle. Doesn't mean you can deliver it, right? So two
yes,
different things, right? So you can promise what you don't have. Whether it's real or not, or whether you're going to get it or not, it doesn't change the fact that you can promise it. But that's not the point of it. The point is of that statement is that it's going to deprive you of your motivation. And well, it certainly hasn't deprived Santiago his motivation. It didn't for you. You promised a newsletter which you don't have, and you're still motivated to do it. Actually, the fact that you did promise something that you don't have motivates you even more, because you don't want to be false and phony and not deliver on your promise. So it adds to your motivation. So I'm sorry, but this statement, it's
don't
just,
you don't you think that he's talking about in context that I'm going to promise something which I will get in future. I'm already giving it to someone, like part of it. So okay, 110 to this, 110 to this, and by doing this, by continuing this practice, I'm going to lose my ambition, or okay, aspiration, or my motivation to get this, because what I will get, I have to give it to 1/10 to this, 1/10 to this. Okay, it's just a very few limited amount now. So
I
why
know,
to
but,
has
but it's not really, Beena. I mean, you're trying to fit to make the statement be true. It's
yes,
simply not,
exactly this. No, I'm not
sorry,
making it
it's
true. I'm just
simply
trying to
not true. It
no,
could
no.
be.
I'm just trying to be receptive that okay, it does make sense. Yes, I'm not saying that it is true or not. No, just to that how it makes sense, how it might make sense.
Yeah,
This is
but if you have to contort things to that degree to make them make sense, I understand in the context that, look, he's trying to make something and make a profound statement, but it sounds very profound, but actually, when you think it through, it's nonsense.
yes,
Same thing
that's
with
what
with his
I was
statement about
paused.
the sheep, that the sheep
I
only
was
think of food and water. No, they don't. Sorry. So he just says stuff like this, which he makes it sound very profound, but it's actually nonsense. So, I don't want to have to contort things in order to make it very profound. And, I mean, the very fact that
no, no,
Santiago has
no.
not left
It's not
lost his
about
motivation,
profound. No, sir. It's not about making it profound. Just that it does make sense or not. If I assume that it does make sense,
but it
why you
doesn't.
saying that? Like, okay, if just assume that you are saying that I'm going to buy a cake for myself, And then your neighbor asks that, okay, will you give me a slice of it? And you say, oh, I will give you a slice of that cake when I will bought that. Okay. And then another come, and then another, and Beena come, and then Donna come, and they say, and then you will see that, okay, I'm not even will have any enough to eat. So what's the point to do that? Okay. Yes, impeccability will say that, oh no, a lot of people will get happiness out of it. So I need to do it like more efficiently, more quickly. I will have to go right now to buy that cake. But in this case, if the shepherd start like making promises on something which he already didn't have that, then he will lose his aspiration or ambition towards that. This is what I guess that he's trying to say.
Yeah,
But
kind of.
something
All right,
huge
but
and
Beena,
profound.
hang on, think of it a
Yeah.
bit further. Because I appreciate your effort of receptivity of trying to make sense of something.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
I appreciate this. But what the old man is asking him, he is at this in that statement of his. He's actually saying that what he's asking Santiago shouldn't give him.
Say it again.
He's asking for 1/10 of his flock
Yes.
in return for finding the treasure. Isn't that
Yes.
exactly giving something on what you don't have, and it will ruin your motivation?
No.
Well, he's
Already have this
giving him
thought.
1/10 to find the treasure. You don't have the treasure yet, but you're giving something away. So he's actually arguing against himself, which, at least with the old woman, it's like, okay, if you get it, you get it, and I get something. If you don't, you don't. Right? That's fair enough.
Isn't it same for the consultancy fees, like something? Yeah.
Precisely. But with the old man, he's absolutely giving something tangible based on something he doesn't yet have, which that is, I mean, if you now take his advice, he shouldn't give him something based on something that is still a promise and an idea. Because if the old man tells him with the treasure, it's still a promise. It's still hypothetical until he actually gets it. So in essence, you are giving something, an actual thing for a maybe, a possibility, a promise. So by his own logic, Santiago shouldn't give him the sheep.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But
Not right. Exactly. I'm not feeling resolved with this. But I want to
I understand you're not
think
feeling
about it.
resolved, Beena, because to me, there's absolutely no way this statement it might lead to some people losing motivation. But in my
Yeah.
experience, usually it's the opposite. But anyway,
Yes.
it's stated as an absolute. It might,
Yes.
but if it might lead to it, well, then don't give him your sheep. So the whole thing is messed up. Again, because it's that same logic as the sheep only think of food and water. Yeah. So it's just shallowness, in other words, not thinking it through. It's about the impression. It sounds deep. It's not actually. It's my problem with the book. Yeah, sorry. There's one of them. There's many problems with this book.
Okay.
So you've got to read. I mean, when you read this book through the lens of, oh, this is a fabulous, fantastic, wonderful book, which it's presented as. It's the mood. It's a cueing. And if you get into that, okay, then you're going to hear that statement of the old man here as something profound when it isn't. It's just nonsense. Anyway. So
Okay.
I find, I mean, the idea of profoundness is sometimes as motivating and powerful as actual profoundness. Yeah, we don't need to have actual profoundness to be motivated. We just have to.
It's a big statement right there.
Right, exactly. But it's taking what the old man said and inverting it. Getting the opposite of it, like the sheep and the perspective. Like their schedules. Remember, that could go both ways. He could be influencing the sheep, and the sheep could be influencing him. Both could be influencing each other, and it could be emerging. He didn't think of a third option. But anyway. So in the same way here now, we'll turn it upside down. Anyway, keep going, Beena, keep going. It's fascinating to me. It's fascinating.
I still have I still have no absoluteness towards that statement because I want to explore it more. Okay.
Okay. Good. Beena.
Yeah.
Good.
The boy
That's appropriate.
Promised to give 1/10 of his treasure to the gypsy. Gypsies are experts at getting people to do that, sighed the old man. In any case, it's good that you have learned that everything in life has its price. This is what the warriors of the light try to teach. The old man returned the book to the boy. Tomorrow at the same time, bring me a tenth of your flock, and I will tell you how to find the hidden treasure. Good afternoon. He vanished around the corner of the plaza. Okay, so it's 10:30, and it would be Erica's time.
In a half, keep going till Erica comes. Keep going, keep going.
Huh?
Keep going till Erica comes. She'd like to hear a bit of the reading also. Keep going, keep going.
No, but I have to go and eat something.
Well, you've got a half an hour. Can you last an half an hour?
No, it is not going to take half an hour.
No, but can you last a half an hour, or do you have to eat now?
I have to eat now.
Oh, you can't hold on for half an hour? Can't fast
It will
for
take
half an hour?
then it will take like more than an hour again. So it is, we are on page, where is my pages? Okay, there are no pages. I'm going to leave it like this. Okay, it's page 13.
Page 13. So we haven't even come to 25 yet. Okay. Well,
No, it is 13.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. We haven't even come to page 25 yet.
Yes.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Okay. So I'm going to eat.
What you gonna eat, Beena?
Oh, it's a mixed lentil soup.
Oh, you poor thing.
Yes. What can I say? What can I say?
All good, Beena. All good. All good in the neighborhood.
Okay.
I'm going to read that passage to Erica and see what she says. No queuing.
Okay.
I'm going to be very scientific about it and try not to provide any queuing. I want to be fair, and not influence things.
But this is actually good to have this type of discussion. It opens up a lot.
Hang on. Say that again.
I'm saying that it is good to have this type of discussion because it opens up a lot.
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh,
very important because
it's huge.
if I read books with this understanding, with this intent that it does make sense, how it makes sense. Of course, I'm going to leverage it.
I agree with you on that receptivity, but it is to understand that even though you are receptive, that it could make sense. It doesn't mean that it will and does, right?
Not necessary. Of course, not necessary.
Right. And this is where I'm getting a bit stuck on this. That
I'm not.
Yeah,
Insisting on.
To make sense, Beena. The problem for me is that I have to contort too much in order for it to make sense.
But
Understand what I mean?
I understand your point, sir.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that okay, it's a valid point. Okay, it's a good point you are making, and it is profound. But also, I want to give the same chances to the writer also. But yes, how it is, and let's see, and how it is going to make happen. Yeah. Because that was okay in my memory. I still remember that was the statement I was paused on, and I was pondering my head like how it is, like how I'm going to just lose everything. Because at that time it was all magical, so all fantasy, all supernatural kind of thing. So I was like, yes, if it is so, then so I was not resolved completely with this because I was not able to understand this in depth. Okay. Now this time, okay, the second time when we were reading, I said this that time too. Like, oh, how does it make sense? I asked you if you remember that. Third time now we are reading, and I'm asking the same question again. How it does make sense? Maybe Even in my third attempt, if I will not get a resolution, satisfying one, I will say it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, who knows?
Now, this old man says lots of things which sound profound, but are like, sorry. Yeah, it says people learn early in their lives. What is their reason for being?
I don't think so that he was trying to make it so profound, because
That's interesting.
he is just saying that oh, the king who was a king actually, and asking for 1/10 of his
Yeah.
flock.
Well, but his pronouncements are made in that style that it's supposed to be profound. And the fact that he's this king and the old man and the elder and etc. People learn early in their lives what is their reason for being. And then maybe that's why they give up on it so early too. But that's the way it is. That whole thing there, how is that not said in a way that it's to imply that it's profound, considering the context and the old man and everything?
I completely disagree with that because of my personal experience.
Oh, I agree. It's total nonsense that this is, the thing.
Because it was total opposite for me. It is total
Exactly.
opposite for me.
Most people have no clue what their reason for being is, and they have no clue about it early in their lives either. So this old man, maybe that's the point of the story that we're missing. The old man says everything in opposite.
We will see. We will see.
You see what I mean? Because so far everything he said is complete nonsense.
Ah.
Yeah. Well, what has he said?
Okay.
That makes sense, in terms of his pronouncements. It's like, wow. Yeah. Very fascinating.
We will see.
So, yeah.
Okay, we will see. We will see.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. All right. So you're not going to be back before Erica then, yeah? Or come back if you can.
Okay, if I can,
we
I will.
can have this discussion with Erica. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, we will see. We will see.
Okay. I'll
Yes.
pause the recording then. I won't stop it. All right.
Oh yes, please.
Okay. So in case you come back, and then I can, if you come back just before 11, then we can continue and finish this discussion about the old man with Erica, and then I can start a new one with Erica. All right.
Okay. So you guys don't. What you have a scheduled one?
Correct. But she's always happy to do extra stuff, and this is the book is important to her too. So, all right. Brilliant. Okay.
Bye for now.
All right. Bye. Okay. I wanted to do screen share. That's what I was trying to do. All right. Since the miner had sacrificed everything to his personal legend, the old man decided to become involved. He transformed himself into a stone that rolled up to the miner's foot. The miner, with all the anger and frustration of his 5 fruitless years, picked up the stone and threw it aside. But he had thrown it with such force that it broke the stone it fell upon, and there, embedded in the broken stone, was the most beautiful emerald in the world. People learn early in their lives what is their reason for being, said the old man with a certain bitterness. Maybe that's why they give up on it so early, too. But that's the way it is. The boy reminded the old man that he had said something about hidden treasure. Treasure is uncovered by the force of flowing water, and it is buried by the same currents, said the old man. If you want to learn about your own treasure, you will have to give me 1/10 of your flock. What about 1/10 of my treasure? The old man looked disappointed. If you start out by promising what you don't even have yet, you'll lose your desire to work towards getting it. Sorry, let me read that again. If you start out by promising what you don't even have yet, you lose your desire to work towards getting it. The boy told him that he had already promised to give 1/10 of his treasure to the gypsy. Gypsies are expert at getting people to do that, said the old man. In any case, it's good that you've learned that everything in life has its price. This is what the warriors of the light try to teach. The old man returned the book to the boy. All right, so I'm keen to hear what you think of this. I'm trying very hard not to cue you in any way. So I'm being very scientific to be very neutral, right? So I'm not saying, obviously something in this, but by implication, I'm not saying which part or which parts, plural, whatever. So anyway, just what comes up to you by way of takeaway on all of this.
No. Okay, so I've got to get my mind in
Can you read it? Is it big enough
space
to
for
read?
this. It is, but I may have to go through it again because I've got to key my brain in on this
Okay. Okay.
here.
Well,
Um,
that's definitely big enough to read. Yes.
yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So
So,
while you do that, I shall make some coffee.
okay.
Well, let's get the kettle on. Yeah,
Okay.
excuse me. All right. I'm listening. I'm listening.
Let's see. I went back over one part several times, so I'm still going through. Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously by implication, because I'm sharing this with you, something in here is
Yes.
worthy
Yeah.
of attention of some kind.
Whoops.
Sorry. Sorry. I forgot I was screen. Oh, I wasn't. Oh, yeah. Damn it. Sorry, Erica. There we
No,
go.
it's all good. It's all
I
good.
forget, I'm so doing without screen sharing.
Yes. No, it's all good.
Trying to get Beena to
Um, okay, so I got kind of halfway through there, but I mean, obviously, given our discussion the other day,
Hmm.
the thing that stands out to me is where he's talking about learning what your reason for being is.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
that's one thing. Let me just cue you
right,
a little bit. Yeah.
one thing
Yeah.
in this particular section is that he talks about force twice
Yeah.
in the context of that being the key to like finding your treasure, I guess. That, the miner threw the stone with so much force that it revealed the emerald inside the other stone. And then he says, treasure is uncovered by the force of flowing water, which to me, I would think would mean sort of, I mean, energy, obviously, but also maybe like intent, doing something with purpose, with a sort of purposeful energy. Um, but yeah,
Now, if you take it literally, it's nonsense, right?
right, right,
Yeah, which is very interesting that it's said so literally.
right.
No indication. The only way we can make sense of it is to take it figuratively. And I personally don't feel that it's meant in the context. It's not meant to be taken figuratively. It's meant literally.
Interesting.
Because, well, this old man says a lot of stuff that's just nonsense.
Mm,
Let's go a little further. That's the point here. So I'm with you, right? And Beena too. In the context of receptivity, we try and read things as if they do make sense, and then work from there. But some of it, like in this case, okay, I can make this point of, well, first of all, people learn early in their lives what is their reason for being. Not so.
right, right,
Making it as an absolute,
right.
some might, but in my experience, I've never known
True.
anybody
Yeah.
who at least I've heard of people who knew early in their life what the purpose
Right.
of life was. But
Well, and okay, it's so interesting because this is, I mean, that is exactly one of the things that I think I've struggled with for a really long time. I was just saying this to mom the other day that I feel like in my journey of leaving my job and trying to figure out what I'm doing next, in virtually every account that I read or heard of people doing the same thing, of getting this idea in their head that they're going to leave their career and completely start over, in virtually every circumstance, the person telling the story would say, well, there's this one thing that I have always wanted to do when I was, really young. I was like really obsessed with whatever. And I've always had this idea that I wanted to do this, and I just didn't think I could, or I didn't have the courage, or whatever. And so, now I'm doing it. And that was so frustrating for me not having this. I mean, there were lots of things that I was really passionate about at a young age and that I still am, but is it this penultimate thing that I think is like, oh yes, this is exactly why, I am supposed to be here? Not really, so that was so frustrating because it does seem like a lot of people have had that experience, but I agree that I don't think that's
context,
necessarily.
though, right? Let's look at, for me, when I look at context, I always think of those circles, and then you've got another circle that's around the circle. The circle we see in this particular case is that of people sharing how they've left their job, and they had this consuming passion. That's the
Right.
reason for making the post. They're not going to make a post when they say, well, I left my job, and I now have nothing that's really pressing and pushing on me. That's not a post. So we have a distorted perspective that
Right.
because all we only see are those that do, we assume
Yeah.
that's, no, it's not so.
Right.
I
Right.
personally know plenty people who have left just through discontent.
Right. Right.
It wasn't right, and had no other reason. Now, it takes extraordinary courage to do that. Yeah, but nonetheless, I have seen it many times. Now, so often also it comes about, not like in your case through deliberate action, but through
Hmm.
undeliberate action. And they say,
Hmm.
oh, I'm so pleased I got fired, or I got,
Right.
or whatever, because
Right.
I didn't want to be there. So they were happy with the end result. So anyway, I'm just saying it's not generalized, for the most part, that people who leave have this reason. No, that's just the ones we hear about.
Right.
But let's go a little bit further, right? So, okay, the people learn. No, not so. Maybe that's why they give up. Well, it's an idea based on the premise before. Then treasure uncovered by the force of flowing water. Nope. In many ways, treasure gets uncovered and buried. It's again nonsense, right? So this is the statement that I was keen for you to share a takeaway on. If you start out by promising what you don't even have yet, you lose your desire to work towards getting it.
Right. So the thing, What are you
No?
doing in there? Oh, sorry. I don't know what the dogs are doing.
Is
Um,
that so, though? Is that statement accurate?
well, so the thing that this made me think about, for some reason, my mind went to
Oh, exciting.
when you read it the first time.
Hmm.
My mind went to the concept of I'm not sure why, maybe because I've been thinking about this lately, but the idea that when you do something that you are just passionate about because you enjoy doing it and it's something that brings you joy to do, often, oh my word, come over here and lie down where I can see you. Lie down. Just stop. Sorry. Anyway, when you are doing something that you are really passionate about and brings you a lot of joy, I think especially what resonates with me the most is something in the sort of artistic realm or creative realm. When that starts becoming something that is a requirement to do and not something that is just done
Exactly.
sort of as appropriate, or when you feel like doing it, it no longer holds the same
Exactly.
joy and value. So like I know a lot of people say that about doing things that were once a hobby
Yes.
and making that their career. It's no over a certain amount of time, it's no longer enjoyable anymore because it's no longer about you expressing yourself in all the ways that you want to express yourself. It's, well, I have to make this or create that because someone is paying me for it, and so now there's this obligation. So that's what came to my mind when you first read that.
Powerful. That's
Um,
very, very powerful. Yeah. I mean, I love your takeaway. It's not what he's saying, but it's a very
right. It just for some reason that was
oh,
what.
it's great. And I make this
Yeah, for
point.
some reason that was where my brain went.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a point that I make very strongly in the beginning of Wave Impeccability. When I talk about the Zoom sessions, I mean, it was a long time ago, so maybe it's, not acutely remembered, but I emphasize that, this only has to be done if one really feels like it.
Right.
To only do it when there's that passion. Never do it
Right. Right.
that you have to. Yeah. It's
Um.
it's a huge, massive, great big deal. And sorry, just one more comment real quick. It's why my number one rule for relationships is no expectations, no
Right.
obligations.
Right.
And for that exact same reason. Yeah.
Absolutely.
The moment you get to an obligation, it goes away. I saw this so many times in gaming. Again, learning lots from gaming. In that you had people who were volunteers, and they, they volunteer and they do a lot, but because they and then they were made, officers or whatever, part of the management in a way you could say. And now what they were volunteering and happily sharing now becomes seen as somewhat of an obligation.
Right.
It goes
Right.
really fast, especially the best ones, because the best ones are always trying to do more, and they do it, but eventually it becomes an onus on them and a pressure, and they
Right.
rather quit than say, look, I don't want to do so much anymore, and you lose them. It's
Right.
fascinating. So it's very important to do things
Now.
out of choice. Absolutely. Yeah. But his statement, he says, if you start out by promising what you don't even have yet, you lose the desire to work towards getting it, which I find really fascinating because, well, first of all, when Beena and I were discussing it, she thought that it didn't sort of make sense to her because you can't promise what you don't have yet. But
Okay. Right. You can. Yeah.
you can. However, if I promise something I don't have, it adds to my motivation.
Well, that's what I was going to say was that on the flip side of
Yeah,
this discussion of, feeling obligated to do something and that that reducing your desire, I think there can be this sort of opposing thing of, if you have promised something to someone, you sometimes in certain contexts actually gain additional motivation. It's sort of like if you are just going to the gym by yourself versus having an accountability partner.
Exactly.
If you've promised this other person that you're going to be there, you're more likely to go because you feel this certain amount of responsibility
Exactly.
and sort of appropriate pressure. So I mean, sometimes it can be inappropriate, but sometimes it can be appropriate.
Exactly. I mean, and it depends on the individual.
Right.
Integrity, of course, you're motivated because you don't want to break your word and your integrity. So you can use it as a leveraging mechanism, right? I think most writers and authors, are in that they promise to write an article or a book, and otherwise, to hell with
Right.
that. Need extra motivation.
Right.
Promise makes with the integrity is now on the line. So, so again, in this one little section, the old man says three things which are like, no,
Right.
no.
Right.
Now, is he perhaps using philosophy of opposite?
Could be.
The book certainly does not give you any indication that this is so, yes?
Right. I agree.
On the face of it, if you don't read with discernment, this old man is making all these profound pronouncements.
Right. Right.
The queuing is so. The reason that I don't give the author the benefit of the doubt here is because of what he said about the sheep.
Okay.
Remember, what did the sheep think of?
Oh, I don't remember.
I only think of two things according to Santiago.
Two things. Okay. I don't remember. It's been quite a while.
Oh, wow. Well, Santiago says, and he says it twice, at least so far, the sheep only think of food and water.
Okay.
Is that true?
Well, who knows? We're not sheep, so we can't say.
But anybody who's been near sheep can tell you that might not be we don't know what they're thinking of, but it's very clear that in terms of their attention and what they are focused on, food, water, and procreation.
Right.
Right? Now, sometimes sheep will think of safety, but that's why sheep are sheep, or one of the reasons, because sheep are one of the few animals that only think of safety when it comes when they're threatened, right? If you look at a deer and that, they'll be grazing along, it's all calm and peaceful, but every now and then they'll pick their head up and kind of check, right?
Right.
So, which implies that they have a more or less ongoing awareness of safety, but sheep no.
Right.
That's it. They just eat and munch and they're in their own oblivion. And even when they have young, they're not hyper attentive like other, mothers are, right? Just oblivious. So my point is, from the author's point of view, for a shepherd to say sheep only think of food and water, this is a bit of an oblivion. It's a bit of a bubbleness that he's. I'm sorry, I said you can be among sheep for 1 week and you're going to know this, right? You are, unless you are completely blind and oblivious, right?
Right.
And especially when he says that Santiago's thinking about the girl and that's all he can think about. Hello, aren't you not thinking about procreation?
Right. Right.
So it's not like this is a foreign thought to him, So what I'm saying here, and what bothers me a bit about the book, I like the book very much. However, this assumptiveness, this cueing of profoundness,
Right. Right.
and he gets away with it. This bothers me. Like nobody questions the statement about the sheep.
Right.
I've never seen it questioned, but like I said, anybody who's been around sheep knows this, and I have been around sheep.
Right.
Some animals even think about sanitation. When they gotta go, they go away from the nest or whatever. They dig a little hole or whatever. Not sheep. They shit in their own drinking water. I saw this absolutely literally. Right?
Yeah.
I explained this to you, right? With the windmill, the trough, and the overflow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm on the thing. It was astonishing. Yeah. So yeah, so I don't know if sheep even think about food or water or just act by reflex and instinct, you know.
Right, right.
I mean, if you're around sheep long enough, so it bothers me this a little bit in the book, and I think the book gets a tremendous amount of power out of this cueing, that there's
Hmm.
this deeper profoundness. I mean, I think if you were to ask the average reader, somebody who likes the book, what do you think of the old man? You know, the king of Salem, right? They would say, "Oh, he's so profound." Would you? Or at least if you had to cue them, maybe, you know, is he profound? Yeah, yeah,
Right, right.
but not so. I mean, it talks a lot of nonsense, right? Anyway,
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, it's very interesting to me. So, you know, I sort of just because Beena was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt to that statement that
Right, right.
she's working very hard for it. I can make it work if I work really hard. But you know, in capital R receptivity, yes, we're going to make every effort to try and figure out how it makes sense. But
Right, right,
sometimes you just simply have to say, no, sorry, it doesn't. You know, like,
right.
I mean, this is just, let's just a total duh.
Mhm. Well, and it's interesting because this kind of reminds me of what you were saying the other day about Don Juan and how Don Juan, there are a lot of good things in there, but you have to like really wade through a lot of stuff, and that he doesn't always
Yeah.
like say things particularly clearly. That's something that I have always found sort of confounding to me. I think that the idea that profound, especially, I think we have this concept that the most profound things have to be difficult to understand. And I mean, to me, that's nonsense. I understand the purpose of having certain things be sort of hidden or something that you have to kind of dig for and make sense of on your own, because I can see the usefulness of that in certain circumstances, but not all the time. I mean, if something is totally unclear and requires a lot of work to make sense of,
Yeah, that's no good
that's
either.
not, yeah, I mean, the teller is not doing a great job of elucidating what they're trying to say if that's the case, unless it's something that's done on purpose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of things like that, that we get this idea. And I mean, honestly, I feel that way about the Bible as well. I think that was something I always thought as a young child. All of these things are in all of these stories, and everything is supposed to be, this figurative thing, and you're supposed to have to make sense of what all of this means. If this is literally the code of how you're supposed to live your life, why is it so unclear? Why wouldn't it just be, this is what you're supposed to do. Do this, do that, don't do this.
So this brings up a deeper point, which is my objection to the book, right? I like it, I enjoy it, it's a fun story, but I don't see it as this profound life manual, which is what Beena called it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a manual for living, she said. How you get this right, I'm really fascinated. And as we go through, because we're doing a capital R reading of it, we read Siddhartha, and then we
Mm-hmm.
read Jonathan Livingston Seagull. I'm not sure, have you read it or not? I don't know.
No.
No, it's very short, by the way. It's a very short book. It's like, I don't know, 10,000 words or something. So it's like a long article.
Mm-hmm.
It may be worth to just read it, you know, real quick. I'll be very keen to hear your perspectives on it. So it's pretty cool. There's a lot to it. Just in a, not just the book itself, but in context of when the book came out, right?
Right.
Like Siddhartha, you know, they were transformative in the New Age movement, right? So, and I think even more so, Jonathan Livingston Seagull, although it's maybe not recognized as such. Anyway, uh, but oh, I lost my train of thought here. But um, I was talking about queuing. Yeah. So, so in this particular book, I feel that he is a master of queuing things to be more when they aren't. Like the
Right.
thing, like this, you know, the way in which he says it. Now, why do I make a big deal out of this? Not because of the book, and yes, my my objections to the book. There's a couple more, and because it creates obviously a false idea, right? Um, Don Juan actually does the reverse. He sort of downplays what he says a lot. Yeah. But
Interesting.
in context, yes, Don Juan says a tremendous amount of profound things which are self-evidently sensible.
Yeah.
Rely on you to buy into it because it's
Right.
yeah,
Right.
like this statement here. When you actually start to examine it, it falls apart. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I was, long since in the habit of reading, and whenever I came across something that, I would stop, think it through to the
Mm-hmm.
evaluate it, and then first I made the effort to understand it in the context of the book. In other words, capital R receptor.
Right. Right.
Then I would decide if I would adopt it or not. Yeah. I mean, there are some things which, okay, I see your point. Yes, that makes sense, but not for me. Thank you very much. Yeah. So, and I would leave it, move on. But the things that I said, this is something that I connect with, resonates, I want to use and add to my toolbox, then I went that extra step to make it my own.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter then where I read it or who said it or where it came from, totally irrelevant. I made it my own. And that, Don Juan is full of stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of them. And again, like I said the other day, uh, it doesn't matter where it originated. Many say it comes from everywhere, which
Right. Right.
I can personally attest to. But it's all in one place, which was one of my intents. I was
Mm.
looking for something where it had it all in one place.
Yeah.
But in this book, so the reason why I'm also focusing on this queuing, which I think Paulo is an absolute master of at,
Mm-hmm.
fascinating to me, is because that same queuing is what happens to people in politics, like with Trump. Trump does
Mm.
the same thing. Trump is likewise a master queuer.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of his sales. It's all by implication. Now, of course, he uses some very, very direct manipulation of the skewing. Like when in The Apprentice, when they're in this big tower and they have all the new apprentices there, and in the towers, it was a new building at the time, right?
Right.
It's called Trump something, right? But by implication, they're in this by implication because it's called Trump whatever, not Trump Tower, but Trump something else, right? I forget, whatever. But by implication, Trump owns it. But he didn't.
Right. Right.
He owned was the name that he
Right.
licensed to the people. But he didn't own that. He doesn't even own Trump Tower. He owns the property that it's on, but he doesn't own the building itself, which is fascinating. So he manipulates this very deliberately to cue that, look, he's rich and wealthy, and this, in the Apprentice, that there's this great big organization behind it. The
Mm-hmm.
you saw, that was it. It was like, I don't know, maybe less than a handful of people in the actual Trump organization. That's it. The people you saw, they were the people there. The secretary, I don't think you ever saw the secretary that I remember, but
Right. Right.
or if the secretary you saw, I don't think was his secretary. This is playing a part. And the stage, the set that they're on, this is the boardroom. This is the boardroom of the Trump organization. No, it's a set they built on a set stage. So he's very deliberately manipulating the queuing. But it's incredible, this power of the queuing. And yes, the downside of this, once that the basic premise is assumed that Trump is what he claims to be, self-made man, which is completely not.
Mm-hmm.
He got the big loan from his father. He borrowed extensively from his father to bail himself out from all of
Mm-hmm.
his bankruptcies, and even still now is majorly in debt. Uh,
Right.
a self-made man, very successful, all this stuff. It's complete BS. But the queuing is so important because he's so successful and he spent so many years doing this that it's become stuck in
Right.
the popular
Right.
mythology, in the popular mythos.
Yeah.
And because of that essential basic premise, people believe all the rest of the nonsense
Mm-hmm.
and make every effort to make it true on
Yeah.
the back
Yeah.
of that essential basic premise. And Beena was saying in her, did you read her takeaway on Siddhartha?
No, I saw that she posted something and I
Okay,
didn't
but
get
you
to read
haven't
it.
read the book, so maybe it's not going to be that relevant. Although her takeaway is really cool without having read the book. So
Right.
anyway, because and my takeaway, I make a takeaway of her takeaway. I pull all of her philosophizing. I didn't say it in my takeaway, but she makes philosophical statements that are very profound. And
Mm-hmm.
one that she makes is that when you first, she didn't use the word imprint, but in our conversations we've been using it. When you are first imprinted with a choice or a passion or an idea, it tends to stick with you a long time, right?
Mhm.
And we know this from emphasis. So as when we are very young, we get imprinted with ideas and notions and beliefs, and they tend to stay with us because, well, it was in a vacuum, right?
Right.
And again, too, when if you do really want to use this as an adult, you have to kind of clear out everything in order to really imprint something in
Right.
you. Very powerful. There's a lot of competing stuff. At any rate, so she makes this profound point about this imprinting at an early age, and those choices that you make that are these big deal choices tend to stay with you. And likewise, when it comes to with Trump, this imprinting of this cueing is so strong that it overrides all other subsequent sensibilities.
Mhm.
Because very few realize that simply because the end of your thought chain is logical, right? Like the steps 90 to 100 may be logical and reason and all follow one to each other.
Right.
That because you see a logical pattern, doesn't mean that step 100 is sensible and real. Because if you go most of us don't go all the way back down to the basic premise that led to it all and examine that.
Right.
Have, in other words, a logical rationale that follows from a false basic premise.
Right.
Right? So you see this with some of the Trump supporters who now they get caught up not just with Trump, but it's reinforced. You get a feeling belief loop in its own peculiar way between him and Fox News and the supporting websites and Facebook feeding you the stuff, and all of this stuff reinforces. It's all based on a false premise, which is fascinating. That's why they get away with it. So it's very important to understand this particular type of cueing, which is almost a form of hypnosis.
Mm.
It works on the same principle. It is a leveraging suggestibility,
Right.
right? And once you're in hypnosis, your logic is sort of there is no it's not that it's illogical. It's really you just don't really care because the basic premise of your image, your appearance, whatever you don't. It's all superficial. Doesn't really matter. And it leverages that, but still, it's all about suggestibility. And I do feel that this is the same thing that's involved in this book, this cueing of suggestibility and basic premises. You assume because of the style of the book that it's about
Right.
profoundness.
Right.
But yeah, some of it might be, but some of it is absolute nonsense. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have
That's
to really be the
that's really
student and
interesting.
not get caught up in the image, which is
Mhm.
why this book is important for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same technique as Trump. Now,
Right.
in this case, there is some, as you go through it, he does have some stuff that has real value, which is why the enduring popularity people can
Right.
overlook.
Right.
Okay, I think like in this particular context here, the old man and what he said isn't what stays with people in the book.
Right. Right.
The other stuff later on, but nonetheless, we still have to be on guard, right?
Right.
We are
Right.
not buying into a conclusion, right, based on the appearance of sensibility rather than
Mhm.
sensibility, and even more so, the basic premise, which is in this
Right.
case, the basic premise that this is a profound book.
Right. Right.
To me, some of what is in the book is profound, but as a whole, no. Yeah, for
Yeah.
many, for many reasons. Yeah, as a life manual, I sorry, but most people I don't know don't have outrageous, huge, obvious, glaring magic in their lives like this old king who has all this
Right.
stuff that he does. He does,
Right.
and this is what makes the difference for Santiago, right?
Right.
He's not motivated to go until the magic happens.
Right.
So without the magic, there's no book. This bothers me. This
Yeah.
bothers me because if you're going to write an inspirational story, it doesn't inspire me because I say, well, I don't have that magic, so where's the inspiration for me to go and
Right.
my
Right.
my
Right.
personal whatever they call it, right? So this was very bothersome to me. Anyway, so
Yeah.
I'm still going to make it into the course. So I'll actually continue now that we're reading this. I wasn't expecting that to come up now, but since I'm halfway through. And yeah.
So how did you get started working on it? Was Beena reading it?
Beena read this is one of the books that she read. She's only read a few books, and so she wants to reread them.
Right, right.
Siddhartha was one of them. The Alchemist is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So Jonathan Livingston Seagull isn't, but it just came up after reading Siddhartha. I remembered about it, and because there's some similarities, and I was talking to Beena about their significance at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Siddhartha was written in 1922, but it faded. He got the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1946, after a couple of years after his last book, The Glass-Bead Game. Now, I don't remember if they specified at that time if he got it for The Glass-Bead Game and Siddhartha or one or the other. But anyway, they may just have given it to him because of all his work. I don't know. At any rate, so he faded in the 1950s, and then in the 1960s it came back in, with the whole.
Right.
And I was explaining to Beena the cultural context of the hippie movement. It's a huge deal, and I don't think people really realize how much, right? Because when people think today, you ask the average person, what is the hippie movement? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That's all they know, right?
Right.
But when you go back to that time, yes, many of the reporters would come and they interview people, and of course, there are the people who thought this was it. But the origins of it are not sex and drugs and rock and roll. It was about a spiritual quest.
Right.
The
Right.
people who were really into it were deeply, deeply, sincerely, and utterly motivated by a deeper spirituality.
Right.
And that's why Siddhartha became so huge, because it's the same thing. And Jonathan Livingston Seagull
Mm-hmm.
came out in 1970, and it was a huge book. It was a very big deal, even all the way in conservative South Africa, where the hippie movement was very small.
Mm-hmm.
Some, but it wasn't a big factor like it was in the United States.
Right.
And especially later, with the not later, but with the Vietnam War and the protests, the same people were involved in
Right.
that. It had a massive cultural influence. And then, with the protests on the campuses where they had the shootings and that, I mean, there's that famous song, right? With the guy, man with a gun, and what's happening. And so anyway, but still, so they didn't have that effect in South Africa. But even there, Jonathan Livingston Seagull, in that conservative culture, became this really the book. Yeah, it was really huge. Now, the thing that I was really explaining to Beena is that when I read Jonathan Livingston Seagull and Siddhartha and a bunch of similar books in the late 70s, right? Mid to late 70s, right? So 77, 78, somewhere in that era. I'm 79, some of them too, right? But I think particularly I remember reading Siddhartha and Jonathan Livingston Seagull in 1978,
Mm-hmm.
which for me is 10th grade. I'm 16, more or less. At any rate, at that time, the movement has been around for a little while already, but and at that time, and likely for the next 10 years or so, there was no self-improvement shelf in the bookstores and the library. Can you
Wow.
believe it, right? I mean, today you go into a bookstore. I remember the last time I went in, that's the biggest section in the bookstore.
Right.
But at that time, it did not exist. So the third book that I want to read with Beena, which was very fundamental for starting this self-help book movement and the whole idea of self-help. It wasn't even a category, right? Is a book by Wayne D. Dyer, Dr.
Okay.
Wayne Dyer, called Your Erroneous Zones. Very
Interesting.
clever title, not Your Erogenous Zones.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was also a thing which was, a word out there because
Yeah.
of, Masters and Houston and Masters and Johnson doing those studies, right? I think there's a very powerful mini series or series on one of the premium TV shows about this, right? But that it was a big deal at the time. Anyway, very clever title, but it was very basic, simple self-improvement tools. The only one that I remember from that, loved the book at the time, but it was that he had a chapter called The Justice Trap. And I've shared this with many people because many people fall into that justice trap. I don't remember the other things that he said, but there was sort of very obvious basic stuff. but that book really kicked off the self-help section. And
Interesting.
obviously, later then, I think they only really started to come in a self-help section somewhere in the 80s, maybe even the 90s. I don't remember exactly when, but I remember when I was looking at these things, I became aware of these books and they were somewhere else.
Hmm.
Self-help section. And it
Yeah.
started off this tiny little section with a few books.
Huh.
It's too amazing. So I'm trying to make the point in a bigger context of how culturally significant these books are.
Hmm.
How much value we take out of them as a book itself. Yes, there is value, but that doesn't. That's part of their value. Part of the
Right.
also to
Right.
understand how influential they are in starting
Right.
the New Age movement. Yeah. So those books, and then people like Deepak Chopra came along a little later on, and this had all the groundwork had been laid by a few books like this. There's a couple of others too, but those three are massively profound in the shift. Now the Wayne Dyer's book wasn't so new agey because it was very meat and potatoes. It was very basic, where Siddhartha and Jonathan Livingston Seagull, they have a bit of, mysticalness in it and, stuff that you can't sort of, it's not directly provable. It's just an idea, concept, but so they still very powerful in that. I remember one of the books that was really huge at that time was called Creative Visualization by Shakti Gawain.
Interesting.
Huge book, bringing this idea that if you, and her premise was, it was about materializing intent or concept,
Hmm.
rather than intention, not really intent, but conception. She said that if you can absolutely visualize it, it will happen, which is the same thing as what Jonathan Livingston Seagull says.
Hmm.
Well, you have to read it, but in terms of this, it's I don't want to give the book away, but anyway, so that was a big point. Visualize it absolutely crystal clear, and
Right.
it's very interesting, very very
Yeah.
interesting. It's the logic of have a profound thought in silence, and it materializes. What?
Right.
Sorry, not a profound. Any thought brought about in silence becomes a reality.
Hmm.
That's Don Juan's point as well, which again, not a particularly original point to him, and Don Juan never ever claims it is original to him, right?
Right. Right.
Or even to his Toltec lineage, which he goes at great lengths to explain. Hey, look, this is not Toltec typically. This is my particular lineage, which
Mm.
comes from that, and it's a lineage, and they feeding one on each other and
Right. Right.
knowledge. It's not Toltec as it were. Carlos, because of his anthropological bias, was trying to
Mm.
force things into these categories. I mean, his very first book is, the teachings of Don Juan, right? First of all, there weren't any teachings, it was
Mm.
specifically, it's not a generalized teaching like in an academic sense.
Right.
It's all customized to Carlos. And secondly, the subtitle is A Yaqui Way of Knowledge. There's absolutely nothing to do with the Yaqui Indians.
Interesting.
It just happened to be that Don Juan was a Yaqui and identified.
Right. Right.
But none of what he says has anything to do with Yaquis. And, Carlos never corrected this. This is fascinating.
Interesting. Interesting.
It's complete nonsense, but it made for a great title. And
Right. Right.
at the time when that came out, 68 is when it came out, right in the height
Mm.
of the Holy Spirit movement.
Yeah.
Native American spirituality, shamanism is a big deal and all this.
Right.
No shaman either. Yeah. So, even today, I hear people talk about it and they talk about, oh, he's shaman teacher, No, he wasn't a shaman teacher. He was a sorcerer. He was a wizard. He called
Mhm.
himself a sorcerer. That was his term. A,
Yeah.
in Spanish, it would be a brujo.
Mm. Okay. Yeah.
That, because he's talking Spanish with Don Juan, right? So the English is a translation, right? But I mean, and Carlos sometimes he puts the Spanish words in there.
Mm-hmm.
So we aren't just taking the translation words for it, because Carlos is the translator. He's not somebody else's translator.
Okay.
Carlos is translating it. So he says sorcerer, brujo. Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
sorry, you can't call him a shaman. By his own definition, he calls himself a sorcerer.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Later he brings in other terms. He says, I'm a man of knowledge, I'm a seer,
Mm.
he does evolve this because they're limited, but he's using the terms appropriately, and you got to understand that too. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Anyway, I wanted to make the bigger point about the cultural influence of things,
Mm-hmm.
how it has turned the tide of our society. The hippie movement is much more profound than people realize.
Right, right,
Today, we don't think anything of New Age anymore, right?
right.
I mean, I have people, that take Reiki. Reiki is not
Mhm.
even an accepted practice. Most people don't know it's pseudoscience.
Right, right.
What do you mean it's pseudoscience? It's not a proven thing. It's like everywhere. I see it everywhere. There's no actual hard scientific proof as to its efficacy or its value or its worth.
Right,
But
right.
because of the New Age movement has so expanded, it has expanded our range of acceptance of plausibility and possibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Made us much more open,
right.
which is really, really fascinating.
Well, okay, and Reiki is an interesting example to me of so something was I telling you about this? I don't remember. There's a lady who is a Reiki
Okay,
master who
sorry.
does
Let me just pause you there, because this is a tail end of a long reading.
okay, okay.
I want to, it's just otherwise I'm gonna have to send you this huge long
Yeah,
file.
yeah, yeah.
I was keeping it to the book, so I want to just stop that. And I was hoping Beena would come on so we can discuss a bit more, but